Welcome back, SMITE fans. LG and Simplicity next up on the docket. But don't forget, we're doing all this in the name of getting to Worlds. World starts next week. If you haven't gotten your tickets, you're running out of time. HighResExpo.com, the place to go for that. You'll get a chance to see me there. And more importantly, seriously, this is way more important, you'll get a chance to see Zero's there. Zero's going to be doing a little bit of work with us. Zero's, I mean, this one is important, though. LG and Simplicity. Simplicity impresses yesterday up against Obey. But game one wasn't particularly clean from them. Remember, they were down 20K basically to that Obey squad. They're going to have to play better than that if they want to beat LG.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like we haven't seen that much from Simplicity yet. Like, sure, the second game they played really good, but the first game, that should have been a loss for them, but a big throw to make them win that game. So, yeah, we'll see.
Certainly have a lot to prove, I'd say, so far for Simplicity. As we check in with our bracket, I mean, this is huge, man, because if you win that semifinal best of 5, SK Gaming only has one more set to win, and they will make it to the SMITE World Championship. Of course, that final is the best of 3 is for seeding there, but the semifinals are what's really important on this top half, and SK Gaming's already punched their ticket. LG just 2 set wins away from making it to that SMITE World Championship. Simplicity, you can say the exact same thing for them. I think LG yesterday didn't have the cleanest 2-0, even though both games were over in like less than 25 minutes or something like that. I still think LG has a little bit of headroom to still improve too, but I still feel like LG overall is looking like the best or the second best team here alongside SK.
Yeah, I mean, that was my prediction going into this tournament as well. I thought SK was going to be on top and LG behind them. But then again, I think these two teams are really evenly matched, actually. And if you think about it, they are pretty similar in a way, because you have Joshy and Snoopy, which switch roles sometimes. You have Deathpanter and StreakUp that also switch roles. And you have Snoopy and StreakUp that both really likes to set ADC, so...
Yeah, that's a good point. Certainly might be a point of contention between these two squads. And we've seen Set fall off a little bit as far as prioritization goes. Both junglers really explosive. Faeles, his resurgence as a top-level jungler, I think, has catapulted Simplicity to the point where they are now. And Lasbra for LG, you could really say the same thing. Yeah. His transition back to jungle has been absolutely sick.
Yeah, and I mean, it's both two European junglers too that have played against each other a lot in the past, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets ahead today.
I think the big matchup for me that I'm also looking at is Xaliea versus maniaKK. maniaKK, often thought of for Simplicity as a leader for this squad. I mean, he's the guy who was playing the SPL most recently among this team. Certainly still has that level of talent. And Xaliea, I thought, played very well yesterday a lot of the time. I think he had a really good Amaterasu game, but maniaKK is still a headliner for the Simplicity squad.
Yeah, as I talked about before with Faeles and Lasbra playing against each other a lot. The same with Xaliea and maniaKK, right? They probably played against, like, SPL games against each other like 1,000 times, you know?
That's a good point.
It's been a long time since they played against each other now, but also that matchup's going to be so interesting to see how it goes. Like, maybe Xaliea has improved more than maniaKK, maybe it's the other way around, like, we'll find out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those two should have been very familiar with one another coming into this game, but Xaliea has had all year at the SPL to kind of ramp up and playing against that level of competition consistently, day in and day out in scrims. That's the biggest thing, right, is just getting that good practice.
Yeah, but then again, like, Xaliea has played a lot against good people, but they've also been losing a lot, so maybe not the best for his confidence. On the other side, you have maniaKK back in Europe in SML, been winning a lot, so like he's probably more confident, so like I just don't know how this is going to go.
We don't have to wait too long to find out. Picks and bans ready between LG and Simplicity. LG in that first pick slot, which has felt very important so far here in this land. Second pick, certainly feeling like they're behind the 8 ball a little bit, and feeling like you need to ban Persephone and Isis at the very least. And then what do you want to ban after that? Ola run or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to take care of.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big advantage on first pick right now. Like, just the fact that you can ban comfort picks for the enemy team, right? While on second pick, I feel like you're pretty much forced to ban at least 2 gods. In my opinion, almost 3. If you add Amaterasu to the list with Isis and Persephone, that's like kind of... It's so easy for the first pick team to kind of prepare for that too, right? Because you already know what the enemy team's going to ban.
Well, Simplicity doesn't follow that rule quite yet. They banned that Jormungandr away. It's been a comfort pick for Xaliea all year long. I wouldn't be surprised if Simplicity go with an Amaterasu ban here to follow it up in order to keep Xaliea off the 2 picks he's looked the best on so far this year. But is that worth giving up Persephone is the real question. It seems like it is not, and I'd expect a pretty easy Ama lock here for LG.
They did give up Persephone both games against Obey, though, on the side of Mosval. And Mosval is a mid laner that I rate really highly, so kind of interested to see them ban it against LG, but not against Obey.
Yeah, it is. That is an interesting decision. We'll see if it pays off for them. As Alma is the call for LG, an instant Xing pick. This is something that Genetics has really liked. An insane win rate, by the way, 86%. Of course, only through a few games, but still relevant, I think, even in a small sample size. Xing, Merlin, the 2 picks. Merlin, a pick that Snoopy absolutely loves to play. Played it a ton as soon as he joined this LG team. I think that's a pretty smart takeaway. But Olaron is on the table. I wouldn't be surprised if LG go for it.
They could, but then you already have the Xing, which is pretty good against Olaron, right? And this Merlin pick, I think it can be flexed as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure. But Xing especially, a god that has been looked so strong recently and like almost played, not every game, but like almost every game I feel like we see a Xing, and like he just brings so much, like CC, damage, mobility as well, like super hard to lock down.
He's really good at the staggered CC, where you need to use beads on the 2 and then you're dead to the ult, or you need to use beads on the ult and then you're dead to the 2. I think that's the really characters that can punish you really well.
Also one thing with Xing, both his CCs are not affected by other DRs, right? His knockups and his ult is like a knockup too, which like, so his CC you can chain it so well with other CCs like stuns and that kind of stuff. So just super solid pick right now.
Difficult to handle, as is King Arthur, and that's going to be the pick for maniaKK up against that Amaterasu. No surprise to me that Simplicity want to get maniaKK on something they feel like could potentially bully out this Ama. His set was open for both sides, neither side took it to start us off. And LG with the Jingwei pick. We've seen a little bit of Jingwei mid start to creep back in, but I'd be surprised if that was for Snoopy, even with his history of being a Hunter player. That feels like it's a Joshy pick to me.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't like Jingwei too much. Like, I want, if you play a Hunter mid, I want something like a Honor or Uller or something that can fight, you know? Like, you want to fight around the mid camps.
Where has Honor been, by the way? I don't think he's been picked or banned all week. I really don't.
Yeah, he hasn't got nerfed, right? Or
no?
It's just kind of weird. Like, everyone will play him. He was even banned a lot for a while.
Yeah.
And like nothing has really changed, I think, like with the items or anything to like make him worse in any way. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Maybe people just don't think, like he thinks he struggled too much in the late game or something.
I don't know, man. It feels like that's a pick that they should probably be picking up at some point. Probably has a pretty good matchup against Xing, a low cooldown ultimate. You just pound him as he tries to pick you up. Feels like that could be something as we see.
Mayhem.
Discordia again. We go from seeing no Discordia at all to back-to-back Discordia today. We saw it earlier on for Sops. And it really feels like it's more about the passive than anything else, but LG don't have something that can utilize that super well. Even with this Pele, I kind of liked it more in that hype unit minor league draft where they had the Ratatosker and the Erlang Shen, gods that are just going to run at you.
The Erlang support with stone cutting. First
yeah,
item, pretty good with the Discordia passive.
I don't know about that part, but overall, I like that style of comp a little bit more.
Yeah, I just don't think that, I mean, I love Discordia, but I just don't think she's good right now. She's getting buffed too in the future, I think, which is like a sign of that she is really struggling now. And as you said, who's gonna do anything with the Discordia passive? Maybe Amaterasu can fight back better against the King Arthur with that? I'm not sure.
Maybe Lasbra can pop in the early game. Uller rounds it out for Simplicity. I do like the Discordia Apple against King Arthur. That can be pretty strong. Also pretty good against Xing, actually. Normally you'll see Xing blink in, use that ultimate, and then immediately jump out. If you use that apple as CC immunity, dump it on the Xing, then he can't jump out. Might be pretty easy to turn and burn him.
Yeah, true. But then again, like Xing can just jump over it now too, right? Because he's like airborne now when he jumps. So like kind of easy for him to juke it. But sure, Discord are probably going to look to ult the Xing when he's ulting, right? Because then he can't get out of it. But apart from that, like I still like, no matter what, I don't think Discord is that great. But like maybe they'll prove me wrong.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I actually don't mind it against picks like Uller either. You want those little bursts of disconnectivity with that erratic behavior, the 3. That's usually pretty good against pressure picks like Rat and Uller who want to CC you with one big burst. I don't hate it. I just don't. My problem is I don't know if it does enough damage these days. And the build doesn't really favor her that much. I mean, I don't know. The meta doesn't seem to favor Discordia. But it could work, potentially.
Yeah, that's my issue with her, right? It's kind of easy to dive on Discordia. Sure, her leap is really great at avoiding abilities, but it doesn't really get you anywhere. It's a super short leap. And she doesn't return that much damage when you're getting dove. That's the problem Toph had before he got buffed.
Yep.
Like, it's super easy to dive, and when you dive at Discordia, she doesn't really return a lot of damage, unless she hits a huge 2 into an ult or something. But, I mean, it's kind of easy for the enemy team to avoid that, so, yeah, we'll see.
Faeles definitely going to have the ball in his court on this Ratatosker, an early pace setter. In every draft you see the Ratatosker. And I think that he has an opportunity because this LG draft is not particularly early game. They're going to try and take it late. Game 1 starting right now. John Finch and Anatoly bringing you the action.
Appreciate you up there, Aggro and Zeros. It is indeed Finch and Tolley here. Doug's back, being the spectator here for us as he move into the last set of the day. But Tolley, I don't know, man. This could easily be one of the best sets of the day. This LG team has been looking so good as of late, and Simplicity are looking to impress as the top representative from SML EU. And besides, their teammate they came with, out cold or out, so they got to carry the torch.
Somebody needs to carry for the European minor league action so far. Sanguine as well, getting knocked down after their loss to SK Gaming on the North American side. Hype Unit SML got knocked out by the console world, so minor league team looked good at the beginning of the placements, not so much now as we're kind of advancing through the brackets, but this LG draft. Snoopy on the Discordia. You heard about it on the desk. They're kind of worried about the late game damage potential, but you don't necessarily need the late game damage when you have Lasbra on the Pele, Joshy on the Jing, Xaliea on the Amaterasu. That passive, so important from Discordia to be able to pop off early.
It's going to be critical there from them that they use this passive well and that they make sure that whoever is the beneficiary, whoever's getting a little bit of extra power, is make sure they make active use of it. We saw this earlier on in the day, where I believe it was the Erlang Shen support that was the beneficiary of that Jing passive and was able to put it to great effect. We'll see what this LG can do, because like you mentioned, they have a ton of playmakers on this team with really strong gods, so it shouldn't be too tough for them to get some value, as Eonic gonna try his best to defend the perp.
Needs to find the right timing for the knockup, but a beautiful stun from StreakUp prevents that from happening. Eonic can only be a spectator as he loses his purple buff, regrouping with Snoopy at the red now.
Unfortunate, but not unexpected, I would say. It's a Jingwei in lane up against an Uller, and has some backup there from Genetics as well, just not going to be able to come over and contest that. Eonic gives it a chance, doesn't pan out. Doesn't hurt too bad.
And if I'm LG, I'm actually happy to see the Uller in the long lane as opposed to it being middle. Snoopy could be struggling right now up against this Uller, but instead, Jingwei, not really known for losing much farm because of that passive anyway, should be rinsing and repeating a lot of those back camps off of cooldown, especially once you get a little bit more power at hand.
Snoopy is forced to use the bees thanks to Genetics' root. Deathpanter was right there to follow up. Could have easily been first blood, but Snoopy has the relic, and Quick Fingers gets him out.
Genetics possibly looking for the blink if Snoopy gets outside of that tower range, but he does get in combat with a good stripe coming out of Snoopy. Genetics looking at it. You can kind of sense that when a player's like standing still there and he has no blink, he's got some evil intentions when you're staring at the opposite side of that lane.
Giving Snoopy the eyes, perhaps, and Snoopy recognizing it starts to fall back. He'll do back Harpies, and I assume back from there looks like that's the case. Faeles will be taking a back here as well. I'm a bit surprised that he wouldn't want to upgrade the Acorn and stay out here and move around a little bit more, but it looks like maybe he just didn't have enough money. He backed, got sustained, and was right there for his speed buff, so hey, it all works out.
That could be one idea there. Normally you do want to stay for tier 3 upgraded Acorn because the whole reason you pick the Ratatasker. Normally you're even looking for a play before your respawn speed buff because you should have at least a tier 2 version of it. You'll have a little bit of extra mobility than the individual target that you are ganking, and up against maybe the likes of Snoopy on Discordia, maybe the Jingwei before they have their ultimate. It's a good timing window to go for those games before the level 5s come online.
Especially because Eonic on the Scav is not that great of an early fighter, so they might potentially be down a person in terms of relevance.
Nice try.
But Faeles comes in aggressively. Can't strip away the blue, but he's going to keep harassing Xaliea. All this free poke should help Maniac.
Yeah, before the Divine Presence becomes a huge factor on Amaterasu, any poke you can get this early on becomes really valuable. You're heavily negating all the potions from Xaliea here that went for the Health Chalice, I believe. Started with also 5 health potions to follow that up, whereas Maniac trying to rush the Gladiator Shield. He didn't go that many health potions as opposed to Xaliea.
So he's going to want that online as soon as possible. We just saw Faeles bully Lasbra a bit in the jungle, but nothing too much came of it. Lasbra has Blink as opposed to the beads, so I expect him to be looking to make plays like stealing this red buff. Blink gets over the wall, beats Simplicity there, and it is stolen.
And that's going to be important for the rest of Simplicity to recognize the no beats pickup out of Lasbra. If he's going to engage with the Volcanic Lightning, no more CC immunity for him to get out. Faeles should be rather patient with the Through the Cosmos ultimate, as most global junglers are, rather, to be able to use that as a counter-engage tool instead of forcing the issue.
But I do wonder if maybe Simplicity is going to feel like they don't have quite enough control. They have all this set up. As long as you got that knock up there from Faeles, you can have some great fights on the back end of that. But aside from that, in the actual fight, they feel a bit light as opposed to what it is that LG are bringing. Do you see that same hole there in their comp, or do you think that Simplicity should be just fine?
I think Simplicity should be fine. They got a good early game with the Uber, and then the great mid to late game control in team fight. They don't have that necessarily burst damage that you would expect out of most mages, let's say, like the Poseidon, Kumbhakarna,
Sure.
but they have good consistent damage coming out of the Merlin, coming out of the King Arthur. Uller has good long-range poke that you don't have to be worried about getting shot in return. So it's a safe draft, but they're going to need to do something with their global pressure because that mobility from the Amaterasu could make that late game factor for LG to really control the map.
That's a good point, man. I mean, later on in the game, fighting into the Amaterasu or fighting into a full build Pele could be tough, but Faeles is taken to the sky, looks for the knockup. Can't find that, but Snoopy low on health, low on mana, jukes for his life, finds a two-man strife to an act of madness, and Deathpanter low. Lasbra gets the first kill. Feels desperately trying to get to Snoopy, but Eonic is there to body block, and it's LG that come out on top.
Didn't seem like he had the cooldowns necessary to clean that one up. Eonic with a beautiful timing gap shield saves the life of Snoopy as he was desperately juking and weaving so much. And this is the importance of rushing Shoes of the Mad Guy to get that extra mobility, the extra mana, the cooldown reduction, because if you start with the Blessing as well, you're kind of hurting your window as well to get the tier 2 version of this Doom Orb and get that extra mobility from clearing not only the camps or the minion wave, but also the camps as well in the back. You get those 3 stacks. You're getting like about 4 to 5% movement speed with the 18% from Shoes of Focus. It's harder for Faeles now.
Eonic, Blink, Cataclysm, Strife is there to follow up, and Lasbra gets the kill. Genetics does bring 2 back into the tower. Lasbra falls first. Gab shield from Eonic won't save him. Genetics just even this game up with a sick play.
And you can't even be mad about that if you're LG. That's the power of Xing Chen. They thought they could get both the kills there, unfortunately, onto Deathpanter and onto Genetics. But once Genetics survived for just a fraction of a second, he got off the CC immune ultimate. No more immunity for Eonic without that Cataclysm. No more immunity for Lasbra without that Volcanic Lightning. And that's the weakness of LG's draft, not having that CC immunity once the Xing Chen ultimate goes up.
They're all fairly susceptible to it. And I really do think LG had the right idea calling that fight. 2 sets of beads were used in the fight that happened by the red buff on LG's side. And really, it was just the beads from Joshy that was traded out for them. So they had a pretty favorable chance of being able to get some good control off on the Faeles and Deathpanter, but they just couldn't find their targets quite the way they wanted to.
And I think LG are going to learn a lot from that little engagement. It's better to take a fall this early in the game than a game-ending play where Genetics really makes it happen on the Xing Chen ultimate. Genetics going to eat that apple, a little bit worried there, saving his beats instead of using that longer cooldown. Surprise there, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought he was fine.
I thought so too, and he got the Geb shield from Eonic, so we knew he had some backup, but still ends up tossing out the apple, trying to keep, I suppose, Genetics doctors away. Meanwhile, the red buff being looked at, that has been successfully stripped by Simplicity, and they'll pick it up for Genetics. He's just the one nearby. More about taking the buff than anything. And Simplicity have stuck right with them. LG had a good start, but that play by Genetics really equalized things.
This feels like LG are fearful of Genetics almost to a fault.
Sure.
Because that ultimate wasn't up, I don't think, at the time for Genetics in the mid lane. So LG needs to be more cognitive about when these ultimates were used at the 90 seconds now, because there's no CDR up for Genetics anyway.
Genetics will now start this next fight. That's his blink into the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. So Eonic is forced to trade Cataclysm, so he does not get pulled. That does favor LG since they don't use a blink.
It's hard to say though, because both of these ultimates between the Xing Chen and the Gem is so important.
Genetics, though, could be in trouble. Eonic and Joshy trying to lock him down. He does look for the root, but it's not in time. But a big 3-man knock-up comes through from Faeles, so Eonic says hello to the base. Meanwhile, though, they've been able to bring Lasbra down low. Faeles finds another, and Simplicity turned this fight on its head, too.
It could have been even worse. Snoopy was hiding inside the cloud for so long, right at the edge, kind of like hide and go seek, but only a 2-for-1 sacrificing Genetics for Eonic and Lasbra. Thriving right now is Faeles to be able to outfarm this jungler.
Yeah, Faeles having a really good job here in this early game, a really nice time of it. And that time LGs end up a bit too clumped up together. It takes them a while to cut down Genetics with mostly just Joshy's damage to rely on there. In that narrow choke point, that's an easy multiple-man knockup for Faeles to set up for a good fight.
It's hard to commit onto the enemy jungler that clumped up, especially against AoE knockups, such as through the cosmos.
Yeah.
You got to respect the counter-engage potential. Is Ratatasker ultimate up? If yes, don't really all-in commit on the enemy support is where I was getting to. So needing to take a step back is LG.
Making sure that they're staying calm. This game now dead tied in terms of gold, whereas LG used to have a lead by that metric. So Simplicity have done a lot of good work playing around their early game Ratatasker to turn things back around. Genetics played really well too with the Xing Chen. You know, for a while, I felt like Xing Chen was kind of sleeper, that he wasn't being, looked at. But his early game presence, his whole game presence, has really started to become more and more popular.
It's gotten to a point where Simplicity first picked it on their Chaos side alongside the Merlin. A little bit of a scuffle over that blue buff. maniaKK will confirm it over Xaliea. A very old school matchup between these two players. The players, not necessarily the god matchup.
Right,
Going
Xaliea
all the way
maniaKK.
back to like Season 0 days. A lot of experience in mind games between these two players. But I think where LG's composition strength lies, Finch, is where they can group up in the jungle and look for long-range poke, but not all in committing the same way they did onto Genetics. You got the knockup from Eonic. Snoopy should be able to guarantee the Strife Unruly magic. Just rinse and repeat off of that.
And see if that'll whittle down Simplicity. Simplicity, though, not trying to give them the space to operate. Faeles and Genetics have done a great job of just being the active members here on the map so far and kind of forcing LG to make all the correct decisions. But yet again, it's LG. They're up on the Chaos side of the map, and they're looking for StreakUp, who's stuck inside this jungle camp. I say stuck, but one leap and he's out.
I was just about to ask, where are the ganks onto StreakUp? The Snow CC immunity ruler has gone unchecked up until level 12, just now back into base to pick up the ganks.
Well, Xaliea is going to pay for that aggression in left because they know there's no one over here in right to bail him out. A nice, easy kill. And Genetics is another two-man pull. Only problem is Deathpanter wasn't close enough to follow up.
A little bit of poke damage onto Snoopy there, sitting at about 50% health, and Xalia's ultimate was down while he was getting ganked, so a good recognition out of Faeles to exploit that with his global ultimate on that right side of the map, but still being left unchecked, though, is StreakUp. If I'm LG, I'm kind of pushing as to how we can exploit this Uller, because he's now getting to a powerful state in the game. He has Jensen and finish. It's at 30 stacks. He's now working for a penetration item, probably the Crusher.
The only problem is I just don't know if you can send Lasbra over there. Look at how far behind he is experience-wide.
Yeah.
Oh, Faeles. 3 levels, probably closer to 2.5 once he gets a little bit more farmed. But that's very surprising considering that he hasn't missed that many kills. He just must not be getting to his camps.
It's getting a little bit out of hand now. The 2 deaths that he has accumulated for himself, especially with Faeles, getting another kill on the right side of the map. It's been a part of every single kill, is the jungler out of Simplicity.
Xaliea looking perhaps for a solo kill there, but maniaKK times
Beautifully
that ultimate perfectly to allow himself to get some CC immunity and get away from Xaliea there towards the tail end of that dazzling offensive. But yeah, man, Lasbra having some struggles in this early game. Maybe that's part of why StreakUp has gone unchecked. When's Lasbra supposed to find time when he's got to do some catch-up farming?
And paling from behind is so difficult to
Yep.
pilot because you can't make the biggest impact. You are reliable only when you have damaging items. And thus far, with only the Crusher, now looks like working on potentially a Void Shield, not having the damage numbers that you would expect from a Pele at this state of the game. Faeles almost finishing off his own Void Shield as he strips away more farm out of Lasbra, invading that speed buff.
Making life hard on Lasbra here. And when Pele first came out, she was so reliant on like Soul Eater and being able to sustain up inside these fights. We don't see that nearly as much of Pele's anymore. But still, as you said, reliant on these items to be able to survive inside those fights, get the damage off in time, and then reposition. Lasbra really limited by the fact that he's so far behind.
Feels like the LG are just waiting for the late game, and that's where they think their strength lies, because they've been very quiet in this early game because of, I think, getting punished in that mid lane. Once they got traded out 2-for-1 by Genetics' Whirlwind of Rage and Steel,
Yeah.
that kind of shut them down mentally, it felt like.
Yeah, they've tried to all-in Genetics twice. That play underneath the tier 1 didn't work. They had another play by mid-Harpies where Faeles got that sick knockup. Man, I mean, they got punished both times they tried it, and they don't have another viable target, I suppose. But they do. They can go get StreakUp with no CC
Yeah.
immunity. I mean, they haven't felt comfortable going for it.
They definitely have to overstretch if they want to go to StreakUp, considering he's all the way on the long lane side.
Sure.
And to be fair, it's not easy to gank him with all this vision coming through from Simplicity. They have like this little arc of a formation, this little crescent moon of wards on the left side of the map, so StreakUp should be comfortable. Even on the right side of the map, there was a ward underneath the back right camps when it was Faeles invading the speed buff. So it's not only the left side that's covered, it feels like Simplicity has this whole map lit up like a Christmas tree, and we're only in November.
And remember, there's an extra premium on this set here, isn't there? I mean, if you win this set, you go on to face SK in those winter finals, and then that's it. If you can win that set against SK, you are guaranteed going to be going to HRX, to Hi-Rez Expo. So at this point in this upper bracket, it feels like you're so close. You don't want to have to drop back down and win a bunch of games, so you want to be able to make it from here if you can.
And then the loser of this, I believe, has to win 3 sets in a row
I think so.
to be able to qualify. A very long journey for whoever loses this best of 3, but we're still only in game number 1, and only Simplicity up 2,500 gold, not too much, honestly.
And certainly not out of reach. Eonic takes a bunch of extra damage. In comes the apple from Snoopy. It does find
poor
genetics,
Joshy.
but Joshy's dead to right, stuck in the middle of everyone, and dies to StreakUp. So that's why Faeles goes to the red buff, and he's able to find Eonic. That's 2 kills. The dual lane of LG fall, and Simplicity should be able to get a Gold Fury.
Never a good look when you're a Jing that dies with airstrike still available. You got to be questioning as to if the timing could have been a little bit better. Both relics were consumed from Joshy, but not the ultimate. As a result, now Simplicity get the first important objective.
And these two teams are close. You heard Zero say on the desk that it might even be a bit closer than everyone was thinking. LG certainly do come in with an edge as the SPL team that gets to play at that high level. But this Simplicity squad, no strangers, maniaKK, Deathpanter, Faeles. I mean, these are all players that have been up there at that SPL level before and played at a high level. So they're certainly comfortable here up against this LG squad.
LG definitely needs to make sure they have the vision necessary. They can't afford to get picked off 5 minutes from now in the same manner to lose the secondary Fury objective, because they are down about 4,300 gold now. It's only going to get worse, and they might not even make it to the late game that they're hoping and expecting to get to.
I mean, when you have a Geb, when you have a Jing, those things are all saying that you want to be late. Discordia needs some items to come online too, and then Ama all the way over in the solo lane isn't going to be rotating over right away. So, I mean, I agree that they want to wait for late, but I mean, are they even going to get there? Simplicity have started to applying pressure now around this map. They just did it with the Fury. Pyromancer's going to be up here soon. I wouldn't be surprised if they move over towards that objective as well. LG can't afford to lose much more.
It's going to come down to the defensive measures out of LG, whether it's controlling the defense of the Fire Giant or the defenses of their Tier 2 tower. Xaliea sees the Pyromancer started, but I don't know what he could do about it.
Not really much. The Pyromancer has been dropped as Simplicity consider the fight instead. Xaliea already at half HP, finds one stun as maniaKK finds one of his own, but it's Faeles that comes in and gets the knockup on Xaliea. Way in the back, Eonic drops Deathpanter, Xaliea falls, Lasbra is going to join him in the grave, and suddenly the minor league starting to walk all over SPL.
The calls are not good out of LG. They are contesting this Pyromancer in such a scattered formation. Their front line is so far forward and their back line is too far away to assist in the matters. All 3 frontliners die. Snoopy and Joshy are only spectators to watch their demise, lose the objective, and now going to lose their Tier 1 tower.
They certainly should, and that is the dashes from both of them now used. If Faeles saw that, then that could easily be 2 more kills. It's Snoopy that falls first. Airstrike from Joshy allows him to reposition, but that's the Tier 1 tower and another kill.
Not looking good for LG, but great plays from Simplicity, exploiting their power play with a 5-on-2. They don't hesitate after the right side victory. They translate that into the middle conversion of a Tier 1 tower. Another kill onto Snoopy, forcing Joshy's ultimate. It's looking very clean from this minor league roster.
It really has been here so far. They haven't done anything crazy at all. They've taken what LG have given them. That fight on the Tier 1, that was just a really good response. The fight by the mid Arpies, just a great response. And now that they're in control, they are starting to take. But even that Pyromancer fight, I mean, at a certain point, Simplicity had dropped it. They weren't even forcing them to come in.
They were poking out, not Xaliea, but I think Lasbra and Eonic on the right side over
Right,
there.
a little bit out of frame.
maniaKK had a great Excalibur's draft there, and with that ultimate, you see some enemy on the sky. Well, that just means it's go time now.
Yep.
Simplicity reacted beautifully from the solo laner, and there's not that much of a window for a solo laner to look for a play like that, whether it's a pull or some sort of repositioning of your ability to buy you time for your teammates to follow up. So when you see that window open up, you gotta take it by storm, trust your teammates, and that's exactly what maniaKK and the rest of his teammates did. They trusted him.
And the experience deficit's starting to get out of control. 4 levels for Faeles at this point. 14,000?
Okay.
It's almost double where the gold lead is. And you can see it. 3 levels for Deathpanter, 3 for StreakUp over Joshy as well. That's starting to become more of a problem even than the gold.
Yeah, this could get out of hand really quickly. LG needs to stop the bleeding before the late game becomes Simplicity's dominance. Still more poke damage onto Snoopy. Good shield from Eonic. The tier 1 tower on the left side seems to be the next objective that Simplicity want.
They have at least 2 members over here, but Eonic, Snoopy, and Joshy all set up for defense. Meanwhile, Xaliea all by himself in mid. He's getting a little bit of backup from Lasbra to see if they want to start any fights, but they need to regroup. They could easily start to get picked just like this. Xalia's been grabbed, forced into using the Dazzling offensive defensively.
And using Excalibur's Wrath for the Dazzling offensive, a huge victory for Simplicity now. Not having that defensive measure for LG solo laner makes it harder to defend any towers on the left side.
Eonic has been grabbed and the squad is on the way. This Rock doesn't have a whole lot of options as far as getting away here at this point. Deathpanter comes in, the stuns are there, and Eonic certainly does end up falling. They even get the left side tier 1, and they should get this tier 2, and at a certain point, LG, they got to find some kind of defense. They're starting to fold.
They just feel like they're very discombobulated, right? The left side tier 1 tower, it's only Eonic there. You either have to let that go, or you have to throw more bodies into the defense. It's very easy for Simplicity to dive that tier 1 tower 20 minutes in, even if it is on a level 12 get.
And that is the left side Phoenix claimed now by Simplicity, and there's no huge, miraculous plays or mechanical execution to point to, I would say, in this game. It's just been LG overstepping, Simplicity punishing it properly when it shows up, and now they're playing their lead fairly standardly, and just taking what LG's giving them. I've said it all game long, it's the way they played.
Feels like Simplicity are in their natural habitat, the way they've been playing the regular season of Phase 1 and Phase 2 back in the Europe SMITE minor league. When they have the lead, this is how they kind of converted, making the aggressive plays from the windows that they're given, and they don't let it go. They just kind of pounce right on top of it, and LG are feeling the full force of it. They're going to have to start defending their last tier 2 towers and last 2 Phoenixes once Simplicity convert this Fire Giant.
Simplicity should be able to get it, as you said, basically for free, and LG will desperately take this time to grab what farm they can. They should get the left tier 1 tower. They have the wave pushed up in mid. It looks like a purple buff for them to try and take as well, but it feels like everyone else is already eaten and they're picking food off the bones at this point. It's nowhere near enough to be able to stay even with Simplicity.
Yeah, Simplicity have all the momentum going in with this Fire Giant buff. It's looking like a Game 1 victory for them thus far. I'm trying to figure out how LG can defend their Phoenixes. You can't really defend your tier 2 towers. You're too far away from your fountain if you lose that tower. So it's got to be a beautiful strife from Snoopy, hitting not just 2, but maybe even 3 members. And if I'm Simplicity, that's the only ability I'm truly worried about outside of the Blink Cataclysm from Eonic.
And that's where that pressure comes. They've got to find some kind of initiation. Strife already down, so Genetic stays on top of Snoopy. The Frenzy popped as well for the Order side team, but they've already managed to grab Xaliea and Eonic. And Genetic's ultimate StreakUp finds the first kill. The apple does come through, and that'll take care of maniaKK to at least make it a 4 for 4. Or
and
4
it's
against 4.
spread as well. Faeles taking a little bit of poke damage unnecessarily, but a little bit crushing the gun there with Simplicity. They still have the left side Phoenix exposed, so there's still some fire minions trickling down that left side. It was a good engage originally from Genetics, catching Eonic after the Cataclysm had expired to find that pick. Xaliea narrowly survived there in time just to get off his Dazzling offensive, but now Simplicity going to slow it down a bit. Not interested in the right side Phoenix any longer, looking for the tier 2 tower instead.
And LG are considering a defense here in the 4v4. In fact, they have a slight edge because they're able to get their members back sooner. maniaKK not here just yet. And that is enough to deter Simplicity at the very least. They'll start falling back. They got plenty more time on the FG. If they want to back up, spend some of this gold and come back out, there's no pressure on having to do it right this second. They'll even grab Pyromancer so they're quicker when they leave.
That's kind of a late. I'm not too worried for Simplicity's chances, but I definitely want to make sure I don't repeat that same mistake, because keep in mind how the Hype Unit console team handled a 17,000 gold deficit against their minor league sister teams. So you have a lead, don't let your lead play you.
That's going to be critical here as Simplicity do certainly still control the vast majority of this game. And we talked about how Eonic and Snoopy have a lot of pressure on them to see if they can find some good initiations so they can get some kind of fight to turn things around. They don't necessarily have to wipe all of Simplicity. If they can get a 1 for 0, a 2 for 1, something like that even to try and keep them in this game, that would be enough. We're not being greedy and asking for a 4 for 0 or anything.
And Simplicity already thinking about how to counter those plays from Snoopy and Eonic. maniaKK with a Bad Guy's cloak, trying to make sure he's going to mitigate that CC. Even a Spirit's Robe, in case that's not available for him, he'll get the damage mitigation at the very least.
Should be strong. Heartseeker's now finished for Lasbra. That is a nice power spike item for him, so he should be able to do quite a bit of additional damage, but I don't know if it's a question of potential for damage such as opportunity. I don't know if he's even had time to try and sit on top of Deathpanter or StreakUp in the back line. He's not being allowed back there thanks to Genetics and maniaKK.
Looking for the weakened Phoenix that just spawned now. Genetics going in.
They're ready to kick things off. Frenzy already popped in left side. Phoenix already low. They bring Eonic back, and he's already been removed. Lasbra knocks up one. StreakUp's low, but manages to jump back out to disengage. Simplicity 5 over strong can regroup. That's a 3-man strife, but just no way to follow up.
It's a good poke damage regardless. The sustain from Simplicity is going to need to rely on the Fire Giant to catch back up. Backing is maniaKK. Teleport is available, upgraded as well. Ward right there by the Fire Minions. maniaKK now present again.
Snoopy and Joshy have full relics available to them. Xaliea narrowly makes it out with his dash. Left side Phoenix has become the focus, and it drops. Lasbra has to use the ultimate defensively to just barely make it back out, and Simplicity starting to look like a well-oiled machine here in game number 1.
Escorting themselves out like Navy SEALs. They go in on a mission and they all escape at the same time with Eonic respawn. No longer interested is Simplicity to go for any additional Phoenixes without the Fire Giant. And another exposed left side Phoenix. But this time I think Simplicity needs to utilize those Fire Minions to their advantage. They jumped the gun on the right side Phoenix, and I think that was their downfall.
Instead, they should have favorable timing once those Fire Minions start to push down left, with which to threaten the Fire Giant and no LGs to come back. But Oni Fury, I don't think it's a 3 for LGs they might have thought. They do get the objective, and fortunately, Simplicity don't consider looking for a heavier commit, so LG do have some time to back. But even still, they have some items they need to finish off. Another crit item coming up for Joshy. Looks like Deathbringer. A little bit more work for Eonic. There's a Relic Dagger, Ethereal Staff for Snoopy. These are some items that are going to make them a lot more relevant next fight.
Yeah, these 5 items are trying to battle against the 6 coming through from Simplicity. StreakUp is basically full build outside of selling his boots. Genetics is one tier 3 version of these silver breastplate into breastplate of valor conversion away from a full build. Faeles working on penetration now outside of the crusher. Probably Yoda's Wrath for more cooldown reduction. Has 10% on that Mantle of Discord, trying to get 30 with that. Unless he's going to go for a Brawler's Speed Stick. A little bit of healing out of Xaliea.
Yeah, and perhaps Lasbra. They do have a Pestilence already, so they might be slightly considering trying to limit that. Fire Giant, a foregone conclusion. LG not even considering defending. In fact, they sent Faeles over on the side of Simplicity to defend this tier 2. He won't get here in time to defend the structure, but should be able to start pushing the wave. They need these Fire Minions down there threatening LG's base.
Yeah, good use of utilizing this Oni wave to push down the left side to get at least 1,500 gold and mitigate a little bit of the bleeding. LG is just desperate for any farm they can get.
Yeah.
Good play from them to give up the Fire Giant because they can't realistically defend that anyway. So got to look for something on the opposite side of the map. Well done for LG.
And Eonic 0-7 here this game. I don't want to beat up on him too hard. I think when your team is struggling, your support is the one that's going to look the worst as a result because they're so starved for farm as it is. Even when you're doing well, you can tell Genetics only level 17, but this has not been the game for him. This Geb never got to get to the point where he was relevant.
I think it was a lot of Genetics on the Xing Chen being able to just displace Eonic anytime he wanted to. That first ultimate under his own tier 1 middle tower really shook LG to its core, it felt, after that. And then the failed all-in attempt on the left side mid-camps really hurt LG's confidence. And then they started to play defense, and then it just kept getting more and more behind. Simplicity never let go of the gas pedal.
relics available for everyone on this one. All 10 ultimates online here as well, if you want to count StreakUps in that equation. The minion waves are pushed up too, so Simplicity are threatening both the mid and right Phoenix. Looks like Lasbra and maniaKK cheating a bit towards mid, and they'll keep 3 over in right. But maniaKK and Faeles come back home. They're ready to all push at once.
Oh, they're going in again now. Xaliea is going to be the target. He gets knocked up and rooted. Knocked up as well. Frenzy being popped for Simplicity and LG.
Well, Xaliea takes a ton of damage on the tail end from Deathpanter's arcane stance. And maniaKK makes it right to Eonic in the back line. Not able to get much other damage than that, and that will be the end of the Geb. Lasbra, or rather Faeles, tries to come to Joshy, but Lasbra gets the maniaKK way in the back line, so they at least make it 1-for-1.
Yeah, gonna be able to get taken out this time around. Eonic couldn't even get off his Cataclysm. A beautiful Excalibur's wrath into that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Titan is actually getting hit by fire minions.
And that left side, Phoenix gonna fall too. StreakUp takes a ton of damage from Discordia, but now Joshy in trouble. But Xaliea is there to peel from, can't peel away Genetics. He gets the kill on the Joshy, but even still, the right side Phoenix is standing. Those fire minions in left, though, did their job.
And the Titan getting chipped down still ever so slightly. Eonic respawning in 5 seconds. A great play from Simplicity this time to be a little bit more patient than the last time, waiting for that wave to get ever so closer to that respawning Phoenix. Worked out at the end of the day.
And that, the beginning of that initiation where we see them lock down Eonic, particularly maniaKK. I mean, that's so well timed from him. Obviously, the end of rollout has that CC immunity, but the beginning does not. You can interrupt him all day long during that beginning phase. That's exactly what maniaKK does, and the team capitalizes on him well. Now, if he can get a little bit more items online, maybe that combo won't keep working, and they can force maniaKK to look for a different target. But right now, Simplicity are playing this well.
Yeah, he's looking for a Mad Guy's Cloak. Eonic doesn't want to get CC like that any longer, so he'll have CC immunity at the first half and the second half of the rollout once that item does get completed. And honestly, Genetics has been a thorn on LG's side on this Xing Qian. It's not only just the CC that he's doing, but Joshy's damage is getting mitigated by the Furious Roar.
He's just a great brawler, Xing Qian is. Feels like he never dies. I mean, we saw Raffer playing it. It feels like he was one of the first ones to bring it out. We never quite know what goes on in scrims, but at the SPL level, it seems like Raffer was kind of leading that ship, and he played it really well. I think we saw some Spear of the Magus on. You don't always have to do that. But there's a lot of other cool stuff I think he showed, and now we're starting to see it in the very capable hands of Genetics.
I'm surprised he didn't go Jump of Isolation.
Sure.
I think that's more utility and better off utility. You got one Furious Roar on somebody, constantly refreshing those ticks. It feels like you're walking through mud as you're getting slowed.
Yeah, I mean, Raffer was really far ahead. You know, you can go ahead and get Magus in that situation, set up for the squad, but I think Isolation probably fits in more scenarios. And you know, I've said it before, man, Genetics is down in the minor league, sure, but he's about the best support down there, man. And I mean that just writ large. He's such a consistently strong player for them and could easily come up and play at an SPL level, I think, at least at any time. But why bother doing that when your Simplicity team is rolling like this?
He's definitely very good about making aggressive plays, but I also kind of question sometimes when he's on the back foot alongside his teammates of how he can kind of recoup the morale of his teammates.
Sure.
Because as good as you are as a playmaker, there's more tangibles that you need to consider as well, such as picking your team back up from a deficit. Like, who from LG right now is picking each other up in the comms? Hard to really say from us behind the scenes,
sure,
but somebody needs to take that responsibility.
You're right, man. There's got to be somebody back there gassing everyone up, letting them know that they're still in this. I mean, you heard Hype Unit Console talk about it earlier, and that falls a lot of the times down to inbound to Bobby, that he was like, come on, guys, it's just an early game draft. That's going to fall off later. We're still certainly in this one. We can always turn things back around. You got to have that voice in those comms in dire situations like this that can help us stick around.
Against Fire Giant going down now. Simplicity going to try their third attempt at that right side Phoenix. Left side does get shoved down a little bit here from Lasbra. It'll take a little bit of time before those fire minions enter the doorstep of that respawning Phoenix.
It's been stubborn, this right side Phoenix, hasn't it? Not willing to go down just yet. Some credit to LG for that. And just credit to LG for still being in this game, by the way. This could easily have ended 8 minutes ago, and they've held on these Phoenixes for dear life. The Excalibur's Wrath comes out right away from maniaKK to start the fight off. Faeles lurks up at the top of the the team fight, waiting for a grouping. Goes for Snoopy and gets the Aegis out from him. Meanwhile, Lasbra's trading into some damage on him, but the right side Phoenix still relatively healthy.
Oh, Faeles in a lot of trouble there. Can't get away from the volcanic lightning.
And that was a big cataclysm from Eonic as well. Everything slowing down the push here from Simplicity so far, but they still have 4 members, relatively healthy. They want this Phoenix because there's minions left.
They're definitely going to force this
Two-man
situation
strike.
now. Deathpanter in a little bit of trouble there. It's actually StreakUp that helps that one with Snoopy onto maniaKK.
Yeah, Lasbra came in for some good damage too. They find one more return kill. All the while, Joshy is defending there and left. Totally, could we be witnessing yet another potential comeback in the works?
I don't know if Snoopy goes down to genetics. How did they regroup there? Beautiful juke from Snoopy. One more basic attack is required. He doesn't have his jump up. StreakUp gets one. This could be trouble for Eonic as well.
Comes in with the hail of arrows and puts Snoopy to bed. Our next question here is, can Joshy come in and find some work? And he sure can. Those big time crits of the Jing starting to come out. StreakUp looking for the hail of arrows, and he's got plenty of damage.
Oh!
And gets Eonic around the rock. What a juke from him.
Oh, Joshy needs to land one persistent gust before
Still
the
can't do
shot,
it.
but he can't. Joshy, no access to the ultimate. Genetics not going to give this one up, though.
But a good knock-up is there, and he finds some crits still. This is critical because Joshy needs to back and make sure they can keep these Phoenixes defended. Instead, Genetics and the Uller will not allow him. Actually, look over at StreakUp. He might even be considering a push and right to try and steal this Phoenix.
Well, Lasbra has respawned. Blink
going the
should
wrong way.
be available. The right side Phoenix completely exposed. Finally, Simplicity. They got what they came for, Finch. That right side Phoenix goes down. maniaKK actually teleported on the right side of the map as well. At least Lasbra holds on to the left side Phoenix, though.
A lot of blood was spilled, but they grabbed that right side Phoenix that had been so difficult for them to get now. And now they have the potential to have 2 waves of fire minions opposite each other on those flanking sides of the map. And that becomes so difficult to try and defend if you're LG. Simplicity have really set themselves up in a good spot. But I don't want to take away from it totally. LG put on a relatively decent fight there.
They're still getting to the point where their 6 items are completed outside of Snoopy's last item here, so it's going to be still important with trying to find that good CC. Snoopy on the stripes has been good. It's hard to really get into the thick of things when you got to worry about that ability, but Joshy might have bit up more than he could chew. He's taking a one-on-one.
Yeah, this is trouble for him. He's got to airstrike, but he's already taken so much damage. Yeah, Faeles cleans that one up, but Lasbra has found maniaKK. Looks like he got a little bit of help with that one from Snoopy.
Every time Simplicity seems to make a play, maniaKK seems to, take an unnecessary spill.
Sure.
Now, that time around, that was very unnecessary. The right side, Phoenix C just trading out 1-for-1 makes a little bit of sense here, but he needs to clean it up if Simplicity are to win.
Well, this fight's already underway. Looks like Lasbra and Snoopy used their ultimates when they killed maniaKK, so those aren't available for this fight. Faeles does find one knock-up onto Xaliea, but that's about all. With 4 members here, LG have pushed Simplicity back yet again.
That's right, Fire Giant fading away in 15 seconds, so it's either now or never for Simplicity. Looking for a wave potentially here, gonna back on off. Right side has a couple of fire minions dangerously close to that Titan.
You can see the ping, so LG know they got to get over there and defend, but looks like they're much more interested in this chase
This is
instead.
curious.
Oni Fury has already been grabbed, and LG are just all in trying to run them down.
Yeah, like Xaliea this far forward, his teammates don't have the benefit of that 25% movement speed, so if he did commit that dazzling offensive, I think Simplicity could just turn right on top of these Amaterasu, but instead will give up the Fury. An interesting call from LG, knowing that it was only Xaliea with his ultimate up.
Instead, they'll come back and start clearing. It's defense yet again. It's bunker down time here for LG. They very likely cannot come out and afford to fight this Fire Giant. They got to make sure there's not too many waves. Though with the left Phoenix up and only right with Fire Minions, maybe they can push that up and try and clear and still be around to contest.
It's a little bit safer for LG to contest, but it's still a very large gold gap between these two teams to try to overextend. And at this timing of 38 minutes, one person that dies on either side, it's about a 70-second respawn time.
And it's the carries that have already sold their boots at this point. Deathpanter and StreakUp no longer have the shoes. Instead, it's all damage from them. They are ready to start rocking and rolling in these next fights as if they haven't done enough already. We talk all the time about Uller falling off, but no one told StreakUp that. Still top of the player damage charts at this point. He's had a monster game. 9-0-7.
Part of 16 of his team's 21 kills.
Yeah.
Like, this definitely goes to show the importance of taking advantage of a god that relies on that early game momentum into the late game because, yeah, they won't fall off if they're 9-0-7. They have like all the damage they want, probably sitting on a 500 gold potion as well after selling off those boots.
And all that stuff's made easier for you when Genetics is 4-1-16. He missed on 1 kill somewhere in all of this 38 minutes of action, but aside from that, he's had his hand in every bit of it. Genetics having another one of those breakout performances where he shows that you got to make sure you're keeping this guy's name in the back of your mind as one of those strong players.
Over a 95% kill participation out of the support from Simplicity, playing out of his mind. I like the build as well. Hidonemi line makes it harder for Joshy with this crit build to really start chunking away on Genetics. Relic Dagger is going to help him blink into the backline even more. A little bit of sustain, self-sustain from his passive and the Sovereignty HP 5 aura. So Genetics, hard to really lock down.
Genetics wants to try and bring the team over here to this left side Phoenix. You can tell this is something he really wants. He's got 3 members in mid threatening there too, so they're trying to split up this defense of LG, and LG are remaining strong. It's Xaliea and Lasbra trying to keep mid standing. They bring 2 over to help the defense. It's just Joshy and left.
Kind of a reverse effect here. Now sieging the left side. It's almost, you know, that vertical line was flipped now. Instead of sieging the right, they're sieging on the left side, as it's important for LG to figure out ways to defend this. Maybe if they pick out maniaKK in mid, though.
maniaKK tried to come in between the mid and left Phoenix, and for his trouble, catches a ton of damage. He has the upgraded teleport. He'll be right back once he teleports to a ward at full HP, so not much harm, not much foul. In fact, you can teleport in full view here on the left-hand side.
Oh, they're forcing this one. Joshy was too far away from maniaKK to catch.
But Eonic responds to the 2-man Cataclysm. Joshy gets the first kill. Genetics tries to just keep them away from the front line of the fight, but he's taking too much damage. Lasbra and Xaliea should be able to collapse on him for another 2 kills, and LG hold on to make that fight 2-0.
Very uncharacteristic with how clean Simplicity were playing in the early to mid game to falter in this late into the game. maniaKK wanted to force that fight so badly. After teleporting, he blinks in, he uses that Excalibur's Wrath, just an inch too short to catch Joshy's Jing away. He didn't even have to use the beat or the Aegis to get away from that one. So it's important for Simplicity to regroup and figure out ways to get this cleanly, because now it's LG that can counter push off of the 30-second death timer from Genetics and maniaKK.
Just a tough fight there for Simplicity. I wonder if there's something in the air, man, because this is not the first late game comeback potential we've seen here today. Now, LG still have a lot of work to do. This is not comeback time just yet, but this is how they begin, with a couple of small fights that are even, then they start going the other team's way, and all of a sudden you're having trouble making your way in. I mean, I know the Geb struggled all game long, but this is where you want one at 41 minutes.
The Geb Shield, very important to cleanse CC to provide over 400 health extra for your squishy backliners. And on top of that, the positioning from LG on these Phoenixes make it harder for Simplicity to just dive all in and, you know, throw the whole kitchen sink right on top of LG. So scattered in that positioning, they hold on for dear life on both sides of the map.
And the just pick on Eonic strat that has worked so well for them. He has 9 deaths this game. That is starting to become less and less viable. They seem to not be clear totally on where to go for their initiations. They've been splitting up on these waves, trying to see if LG will overstep or come on a line and make things a little bit easier for them, but LG are not biting, and Simplicity can't cross this final line to seal the game.
Yeah, it feels like maniaKK has to be the secondary engager, not the primary one. Genetics was taking that Phoenix for a long time because of his HP 5, because of the Fire Giant buff, but his teammates weren't really there to follow up off of that, so it needs to be somebody making those calls and like, hey, listen, I'll engage, you wait in the backline, maniaKK, let's kind of clean this one up.
Titan now just been made even a little bit weaker on the Chaos side of the map by grabbing that Tier 2, using the notification that the Fury had gone down to know that Tier 2 should go largely uncontested, and it looks like LG have had a change of heart. They're ready to start fighting in the jungle now, not just on their Phoenixes. Totally, are they ready for jungle fights here now?
It's setting up an ambush. If they can catch someone kind of funneling in this corridor, Genetics narrowly avoids both the abilities out of Snoopy, and they're looking for the counter engage.
Yeah, Genetics is ready now, but that knock-up from Joshy slows everything down. Big-time crits landing on Genetics. That forces it back. Good Geb Shield to keep him standing upright as well. Deathpanter well below half, but Faeles has made his way away to Lasbra, and they've removed the Pele from the equation early on.
Oh, Joshy uses that airstrike to avoid StreakUp's axe on the right side. Deathpanter now on the north gets away. Snoopy from a distance catches out StreakUp.
And Deathpanter's critically low as well. Eonic there to find that kill. They've removed the 2 damage dealers already. Have LG. They've only given up Lasbra for the trade. Joshy's going to complete this back. Genetics has been hunted down as well and could easily fall at this point. LG are right back in it.
Genetics gets caught by the Strife. maniaKK escapes north
man.
side, and nowhere to be found was Faeles. And just like that, LG get a 3-for-1 exchange. That EFG has blue coloring all over it.
It absolutely does at this point, man. LG, that's theirs if they want it, but it looks like they're not particularly interested. They're just going to push down mid, and this is an interesting call because they are favored to get at the very least this Phoenix, especially with Joshy still alive. And if worse comes to worse, they can probably come back and get FG later.
Yeah, they definitely should be able to confirm this one with a wave or without a wave. LG get this Phoenix, unless Faeles and maniaKK have something to say about it right now.
It looks like they don't. Only Faeles has Blink, no ultimate available. They're basically just going to watch and give this one up, and now LG can go back for the enhanced Fire Giant and should be able to get that one largely uncontested as well. This game felt out of reach for LG about 20 minutes ago or so, and they just held on. Simplicity could not close this game back out. These late game characters, the Ama, the Jingwei, the Geb, got more and more relevant.
This Geb is so important for keeping the backline alive. Joshy keeps his life intact because of that Geb shield. Once Genetics dove him, once maniaKK went into that backline. 2 clumped up, good turnaround potential from LG to really punish the aggression from Simplicity, kind of walking into a trap.
This is not the first potential comeback we've seen here today. Hype Unit did it up against Hype Unit earlier on today. Console up against SML. The Console team was down 17,000 gold and held on to win their very first game. Now LG trying to do something similar. At one point, or even right now, there is still an 18,000 deficit, so we're at about the same marker here if LG can pull off a similar miracle.
Yeah, but at this point, 45 minutes in, that 18,000 gold lead is like being up 1,000 gold at the 5-minute mark or so. Like, it's something short because of 3K potions, but it's not enough realistically. You need to be able to have ended the game by this point, because by all accounts, it's basically even, outside of LG controlling the middle lane with fire minions.
Simplicity have pushed back in and regained control of the Fire Giant pit. They've got a ward, controlling the vision around it. Pyromancer theirs, though not tremendously impactful really at this point in the game. Just kind of another thing to do. LG, on the other hand, had to find a way to establish this positioning. They have not done a great job of this yet. These jungle fights, their base defense was good. They held on there. Now we get a chance to see how well they can contest an objective.
I want to talk about LG's build choices here. 3 Magai's Cloak has been really helping them out, survive the primary engage there, but a good use of that Merlin pull to at least pop Eonic's Magai's Cloak. Not going to have that for another 60 seconds, and that's very important during these little scuffles around this Fire Giant dance.
That's been the big difference maker, that they couldn't punish Eonic nearly as easily as they could earlier on this game. So that Magai's Cloak being down, just one extra step that they could take to take this Geb down easier could potentially be game-changing, but I mean, Simplicity aren't really in position to start any fights right now. LG just took a couple of backs as well. We're still a little while away from our next skirmish, it would seem.
Yeah, for this next Fire Giant fight, this almost feels like a couple that's just been on the phone for way too long together, and they're like, no, you hang up first. And that's kind of like whoever pulls this Fire Giant is the one that's hanging up on the relationship.
We'll see how that ends up working out for them. A little bit of middle school, perhaps, coming through for the teams here today, as Simplicity have been struggling to initiate underneath the Phoenixes, but here in the jungle, it should be a bit easier. Faeles' ultimate should get more value as opposed to when it's much easier to see it coming up around that Phoenix. If I'm Simplicity, you don't feel too bad about taking these fights.
Yeah, I think that you could definitely create a lot of chaos, but Faeles, by the time Faeles goes into the sky and lands, the damage from LG is just too much for even Genetics at this point to handle. And once Faeles lands, he's going to be in trouble as well. It needs to be a lot of just like poke and reset. But it's hard to really get poke onto any target when Eonic is ready for the shield.
I think there's a ward here, so Simplicity should know this Oni Fury is going down. It's been claimed, but Genetics wants to punish if he can on the backside of it. Doesn't get there in time, and that Oni Fury, 48 minutes in, might be the most impactful Fury. It'll pump up these minions and create a bit of an extra distraction for Simplicity to have to deal with.
With all the attention on the right side of the map, those 3 big brute gladiator minions on the left side of the map with those archers boosted by double health, double damage, could be enough to get the Phoenix.
Eonic Blink, 2-man Cataclysm. Similarly, it comes to the right-hand side. Snoopy can't find much with that ultimate, but the Strife still does good damage to maniaKK. Meanwhile, Faeles on the left-hand side is looking for Lasbra, and he's not winning that trade at all. Lasbra comes out on top over the Ratatoskr, and that's already good news for LG.
LG with a 5-on-4, going to continue
Genetics.
the chase right on top of Genetics. Nowhere for the Jing chance to go, and now it's LG that have complete control. They were down the entire game, Finch, and they're literally just one push away from ending it right here, right now.
It doesn't take a whole lot. Now, Lasbra's in some trouble here with StreakUp. A hail of arrows could certainly be the end, but a nice Gab shield from Eonic shuts all of that down. In fact, StreakUp and Deathpanter, they know exactly where they're at, and Xaliea has a great positioning for a pincer maneuver. They could be in trouble, but if Eonic goes in too far by himself, he could just die, so they'll give up the chase.
Good healing coming through. Lasbra will back to base now. The rest of LG confirm the weakened middle Phoenix. The enhanced fire giant very exposed now. Faeles not up for 30 seconds. Same can be said about Genetics.
And they'll head right over and grab that one. It belongs to them. Remember, they still have minions pushing in left as well for you to worry about, so Simplicity shouldn't be able to come out and contest. And Totally, you're so right when you talk about how this game has turned back around. It really did look like LG shouldn't have been in this anymore. Like, Simplicity are going to come in, shock the SPL, and close this game 1 out, set themselves up for a really strong set. But instead, LG bunker down. They start getting some of these Magai's cloaks online so they don't get as controlled by Genetics. The Eonic gets a bit more tanky. Snoopy and Joshy are online now, and relevant damage dealers, they're in control.
LG have adapted beautifully in the late game. These team fights are looking like a bunch of pulleys and levers to the point where Simplicity are going in, they're pulling it down, and the counterweight out of LG is balancing it out because they disengage beautifully, and then they catch out maniaKK that's too overextended by himself on the right side of the map. StreakUp too far north to follow up. Lasbra wins the 1v1 against Faeles on the left side.
Yeah.
Genetics is able to get chased down on the right side. LG doing everything correct now when it matters most.
Lasbra's keeping the mid wave pushed up, so it's 4 in right. He might be served to go grab that left side wave too, but maybe Simplicity would take advantage in the 5v4. Either way, LG now are the ones biding their time, trying to decide what moment's best for them to jump in.
Eonic going in, Blink Cataclysm, looking at Genetics here by the backside. maniaKK in a lot of trouble instead.
He's already low. In comes the damage from the Discordia as well, but Genetics has himself a target, but it's Joshy. He just comes right back. That's Faeles' ultimate on cooldown as well, and he didn't find much. Lasbra disengages there from him. A lot of ultimates used on both sides, and not a whole lot gained. But StreakUp's relics, for the most part, are down.
Yeah, Ig is coming up in 10 seconds. More importantly, Snoopy and Joshy's relics are both up for the 2 of them, so they should be able to survive this next engage.
Xaliea steps in here first in the Amaterasu, but Merlin's so good at clearing away those minion waves that he needs to come in and take aggro to move backdoor protections and such. With the enhanced fire giant, it's not as big of a deal, but you'd still love every bit of help you can get.
Still has the buff for another 2 minutes and change on top of it. Lasbra with the blink and the volcanic lightning available, forcing out the jump from Genetics to avoid that strike on the middle lane. Lasbra forced to disengage with StreakUp and another one.
So LG engaged on the right-hand side. Eonic Cataclysm finds 2. Shockwave there as well, but maniaKK manages to make it back out and reposition. Xaliea only finds 1 with his dazzling offensive, so the stalemate continues. I feel like Lasbra's got to do more from them from this mid position.
Genetics, he blinks and he knocks up Xaliea. He intercepts the dash and he throws it back into the fire.
Genetics has found the rock, but it's not enough for the kill, so that's why he gets some backup from Deathpanter. He's the one that gets the kill credit in the end, and LG struggling on the Phoenix Siege as much as Simplicity was.
What happens when an immovable object meets the unstoppable force, Finch? This is what we're getting between LG and Simplicity. They can get Phoenixes every now and then, but they can't get the next and final step, which is that ever so important Titan.
And I don't know, Totally, if you had a different read, but it felt like Lasbra wasn't getting enough done from his position. This is huge, though. If Faeles able to find this 2-man knockup, Joshy has to use the airstrike, and Xaliea gets on out of there, too. So everything ends up being A-OK. He was kind of keeping Faeles in a weird spot from the mid lane where Lasbra was, but I don't know. It felt like he needed to get in there.
got to do something to be able to clean out this game. So I like the idea that Lasbra split pushing in middle, but when Simplicity defend with StreakUp and Faeles in the 2-1-1, that means LG should theoretically win the 4-on-3 on the right side, but it's not easy because of how tanky Genetics is, how tanky maniaKK is. This time around, they kind of spread themselves out relatively well. They weren't both receiving damage from the same abilities. And neither team can really end quite yet, at least not cleanly. It's going to come down to whichever team makes the bigger mistake in the next one.
Whichever team can figure out how to break that base defense first, how to pry open the doors so they can make it into the actual Titan room itself. Primal Fury has now been dropped. Simplicity will grab this one for themselves. Not the biggest deal in the world, doesn't mean they'll do a little bit extra damage to these jungle bosses like the FG and such, and take less damage from it, but I mean, we're 54 minutes in now.
I mean, this is a weird strategy of what I'm about to say, but there is something to be said about early game snowball momentum, right? And there's also something to be said about late game perseverance, to be able to literally just outlast your opponent. It's like, all right, do you have the same kind of attention span that we do? Can you focus for as long as we can at the most crucial moment on the Phoenixes? And all these teams going to be tested to the very last second in this one.
And remember, LG as a team are more used to playing here in the studio even, perhaps, than Simplicity. They come here all the time. Simplicity used to playing from home. And this is a 55-minute grind game that they're putting them through here right now, are LG. Simplicity are full of veterans. They're certainly used to these kind of lights, but LG has to do anything they can to try and find an edge.
Like, at this point in the game, I'm like standing up. I'm stretching my legs. I'm like, all right, when's the next Fire Giant fight coming around? Let me just do some stretches real quick as Genetics clears out this ward. So vision control should favor Simplicity, but a little worried about that mid lane as Faeles as he clears it out.
Everyone full build, everyone fully upgraded on relics, except for Snoopy for some reason. Everyone at this point is about as far along as you could possibly be here in this game. These fights are dead even, and no one can really seem to be able to get close enough to fully break the other one's back. And part of it's got to be the Genetics and maniaKK are just so hard to take down.
Wait, Snoopy doesn't have upgraded relics. Can we look at Golden Hand? He's at 500 gold. He can at least upgrade one of them.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like,
should.
Snoopy, what are you doing, man? That's important. Going from, what, 160 to 130 on purification beads or 180 to 150 on the Aegis? Yeah, go do that.
Dude, for the last 30 minutes, he's been telling him that himself that every fight they're going into is the last one. Except for this time, it just has not been the case. There does not appear to be a clear end in sight for either one of these teams. I called it a stalemate earlier on, and that feels kind of right. It's an impasse where neither team can find a substantial advantage. Eonic and Snoopy, though, getting position around this Fire Giant and some vision control to try and force Simplicity in.
And this is the point where you got to min-max your build at every given moment. I'm seeing 2 Void Shields from both teams, and I haven't seen both maniaKK and Faeles on the same target in a long time anyway. So I don't really see the purpose of the double Void Shields, right? Like, somebody should probably sell that one out to optimize their build a little bit more effectively. Maybe more defense for maniaKK. An Oni Hunter's Guard would keep him alive more than this Void Shield would.
At this point in the game, and it's not as if they desperately need his damage at this point. One more ward here removed for LG, but still not quite ready to start the FG. And you started speaking about, you know, how long can you last, about willpower in games like this. Because the thing you don't want to have happen is to go 57 minutes and then make a silly mistake that costs your team the game. That's going to weigh on you into the next game, potentially into the third as well. So there's a lot on the line here, more than just one game's worth of value.
And right now, LG have all the momentum because they were on their deathbed. In the middle of this game, to be able to hold on for dear life on the right side
DNR.
and the left side Phoenixes for as long as they have has been very impressive to witness. This SPL team bounce back from the brink of extinction against the minor league European squad.
Yeah, it speaks to that resilience for them, man. I mean, they had every right to write that game off, start prepping for game number 2, see if there's some adjustments you want to make in picks and bans, maybe take the Xing Chen away from maniaKK or something like that. But instead, LG held strong in this game as Lasbra and Faeles exchange blows and left, but no one gives up much except the Magai's cloak from Lasbra.
A good look there for Faeles to be able to pop that internal cooldown of the item. Eonic trying to do the same there onto maniaKK. Actually, yeah, still holds on to that Magai's cloak as well. This is a battle of inches here. Just kind of like World War II style. You advance like couple of feet ever so slightly.
Rag can get rid of the acorn here, right, too. I wonder if Faeles might want something else in that slot as well. Doesn't seem to matter much right now as Fire Giant's being looked at by Simplicity. They have it at about half HP, and they're really spread out. This is not a full commit to the objective. This is more about trying to finally force the patient LG to commit to a fight. They won't do it. Lasbra is looking for aggressive positioning on the left-hand side, but won't fully flank.
Maniac's cloak is popped as well. Good knockup from Eonic, so exposed a little bit if Maniac decides to blink in. He's going to get CC'd to high heaven, and LG does confirm this Pyromancer. LG not interested in contesting this. Lasbra kind of shifting around the middle side, left side exposed by Simplicity's wave. It's starting to stack up as it finally does get pinged out by LG.
And so they'll slow it down here yet again. Anatoly, you're approaching the hour here at this point. I mean, you certainly got to start wondering about fatigue here for these players, right? I mean, it's so difficult to be making sure that you're communicating everything correctly, tracking all these timers on relics and everything else that you have to keep so much track on abilities and cooldowns and such. I mean, it gets exponentially harder, I would say, the longer that the game goes on.
I totally agree with you, Finch, by all accounts, because there's a lot of pressure on this game.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this one faces off against SK in that best-of-5 upper bracket finals. Winner of that one advances towards High-Res Expo.
It'd be just that easy, wouldn't it? One more set beyond this one in between you and making your way to High-Res Expo. Look where Lasbra is. He's so far away from the fight at this point. This could be a potential pincer mover here for LG.
LG are committed with that positioning. Lasbra looking at Deathpanter, trying to go on in with the Volcanic Lightning.
And that's the Aegis already. Deathpanter still clinging to life, but Lasbra will not allow him to escape. Genetics goes all the way to the back, throws up Snoopy. He is the easy target here for them, but Joshy coming back down to try and provide some backup. Maniac cuts him down. That makes it mid for mid. Big stun comes out as well, but that's two members shot down all at the same time. But LG don't have the follow-up. They're on the full retreat.
StreakUp looking for it, as is Faeles with a beautiful blink stun knockup onto Faeles to disengage. Maniac with a sundering strike. Xaliea knocked down in the dirt.
Eonic has to blink away here at this point. Joshy still barely clinging to life. It's a 4v3. Geb Shield keeps him alive. The shockwave there as well. But Simplicity, they've been here before. They want to shut this one down right here, right now. Long range axe, but Lasbra has too much damage. He comes back in looking for StreakUp, but can't take him.
The Aegis was just enough, and Genetics absorbed that. But here comes Joshy using that Jing wave.
He found one. Joshy finds two. That's a double. He's looking for Genetics as well. That's a triple kill for Joshy. And now only Faeles is left. Simplicity were this close. That flank play from LG didn't quite pan out. Simplicity held on, but LG bringing Joshy back now have the advantage.
Look at those long respawn timers. 75 seconds for Genetics. 15 on Deathpanter. It's Faeles and maybe Deathpanter up. LG not interested in the Fire Giant. That window is not as important as opposed to getting the Titan.
It's going to be a 3v2 here once Deathpanter's up. He's up in 3 seconds if LG want to try and go for the end. But look what Joshy's positioning. Instead, they're going to come over and threaten this left side Phoenix here as well. No way they're going to try and make an end call up against these two.
Finch, they didn't go for the end.
No,
I'm really surprised about that, honestly, because there was 3 members not up. Faeles and Deathpanter. You have 4 healthy members out of LG, and they go for the safer play.
They still don't quite have Snoopy here in the equation just yet. That must be where some of the apprehension comes from. They're trusting Joshy to strike this Phoenix down all by himself here in the left. Lasbra not really able to contribute any damage, but now that Xaliea is here, he just teleported in. They are ready to step forward. The knockup comes through. Deathpanter, no fountain for you. They cut him down. Titan at half HP. Faeles desperately trying to find the knockup, but nothing's there. LG in 62 minutes take the game.
Better late than never. LG at the very last brink of extinction. Bounce back. They fight through it, but they're not happy about this. They're looking for ways to adjust this early to mid-game lack of pressure that they exerted. They got heavily pressured, out-pressured by Simplicity. And granted, they did have the late-game composition, but even then, it was still very difficult.
LG certainly feel better about that than Simplicity, but no one's happy. You never want to be in that situation where you're that far down. You can see it as Eonic, clearly animated at this point, and knows this team can play better than what they saw. But LG, patient until the very end, closed that game out, even patiently coming back and getting left Phoenix while waiting on the whole squad to regroup.
62-minute slobber knocker. Both of these teams are going to feel it going into game number 2, that's for sure.
No, you're exactly right. It can be hard to mentally reset sometimes when you have to come back into a game after playing at that late game state for so long. But that's what these two teams are going to have to contend with here, Totally. It'll be a quick break, then we'll be right back for that next game.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is how we get ready for work every day. Yeah, if you could go to Google, just Google like cool explosion. The one next to it. That one. That one's pretty cool. If we could like make that big, just leave it like that actually. And yeah, that's great actually. That's perfect. Wolverine is pretty cool. Yeah. No, I want. Keep scrolling down a little bit. Yeah. Keep scrolling down a little bit.
We got Power Rangers.
Power Rangers is fun for sure. We like Power Rangers. Yep. And so basically, really, what I wanted to say is hello and welcome to the show. My name's Tom Battinger. I'm joined here by...
Pon. Game designer.
That's not your whole name.
Pon Cooper.
That's not your whole name.
I mean, that's what I am in a namely.
Pon Ooh La La, right?
Yeah, that's the old name.
Where's your name from, Pon?
It's from a J-pop song called Pon.
And
You should go Google and search and watch.
And what are the words in it?
Pon, way, pon, way, pon, way, pon, way, pon, way, pon, way.
That is way more pon than I wanted. Right?
Got it.
Yeah, see, Jordan liked it. Jordan's the guy, you can't hear him. He doesn't even have a microphone. Anyway, Hi-Res Expo's coming up.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Why?
I mean, we get to meet all the fans, we get to show off all our games, we get to have the competitive scene, get to watch all those really cool games. We always have highlights every year. Can see when someone gets to raise the hammer.
Raise the hammer, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Excited.
I didn't really give him a question, I just put the microphone in his face. What's your favorite moment of Hi-Res Expo?
Favorite moment of Hi-Res Expo is...
Wait, I got a better way. Okay, let's pretend like I'm an alien. I'm an alien from outer space. I've never seen the Earth. Explain to me why I want to go to Hi-Res Expo.
You want to go to Hi-Res Expo because you'll get a diverse experience of humanity.
What does humanity mean? I'm an alien from outer space. I don't speak English.
Beep, zorg, blip, bronk.
Great sage words from Pon Ooh La La, way, Pon Cooper. This is the man with the plan. Any last words?
CNHRX?
Last words. We're going to kill him off set. Thanks for joining.
Welcome in, everybody. What a game we just saw between Luminosity and Simplicity. An hour plus long, Simplicity with a huge lead, and then the karma gods always get you zeros. Remember, I mean, Simplicity, they won a game yesterday against Obey. When Obey was up 1 million, Simplicity played defense and win. I mean, it's fair game, right? That's what happened.
Yeah, I feel like Simplicity, or rather LG, kind of deserved this win a little bit more, because yesterday I felt like when Obey got that win, or when they lost rather, they just got the win for free, because like they just threw at fire, right? But now
Sure.
I feel like LG just defend so well for so long. This Discordia are really struggling in the early game, but she managed to get to a point where she gets enough items online, she starts dealing damage, making it so hard for Simplicity to siege.
I mean, StreakUp made so many plays. The 1v2 around speed buff where he's able to juke in and out of the rocks and kill Eonic, nearly kill Joshy. Ultimately, though, I think a couple things stand out to me. Faeles in the late game, really after the early game where he was making huge plays like this, was not able to deliver whatsoever. And Ratatosker's an early game god, but you still needed to be able to provide a little bit more than he did. He took so many fights one-on-one against Lasbra that Lasbra was just obviously going to win.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. But as you said, Rat's obviously more of an early mid-game god, doesn't do as well in the late game. But I think he should just like kind of been on a suicide mission for this Discordia. Like, even if you dive her and don't kill her, like force her out or trade yourself for her, I think that'd be good enough for him, but I don't think it did that enough.
And StreakUp made a bunch of plays, but ultimately the one that ends up costing Simplicity, where he goes past the Phoenix and tries to get the kill onto Eonic, I believe it was, and then just gets blinked on. That's where this whole thing starts falling apart.
That was so crazy though, because I think it was Lasbra coming there like at the right second,
Yep.
body blocks the axe, kill StreakUp in return, and then like this game was so close, and there's so many small moments in this game where they could have made the game maybe swing in the other favor.
So now, I mean, let's say you're on Simplicity. You were up all game. You had trouble sieging. You could feel this game slipping away from you towards the back end. How hard is it to mentally reset?
It is like, I think they had to come up with like a new plan, because obviously they've been so far ahead the whole game, so they've had it kind of easy, like we just get fired and we start sieging, and if this doesn't work this time we get fired again and we try. But it gets to the point where Simplicity or LG is just strong enough, so like they're the ones start sieging, and as I said, I think this Discordia just got to do too much.
Yeah, it really did. Once that get to 6 items, kind of end the game. This is the game-ending moment, though. Joshy flies in and just gats down 3 different people. Triple kill for him to close it out. We've seen a resurgence of Jing so far this land. Crimson brought it out for Hype Unit Console, and it's kind of continued since then. Just feels like this Jing pick does so much when it gets to later stages. This to actually close the game. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. This game for Deathpanter felt pretty difficult. He was doing good damage from a distance, but as soon as Lasbra was able to close those gaps, he really got ran down.
Yeah. Kind of crazy to think about that. They win this game because of Jing passive, right?
Yep.
Because like she flies back, gets a triple, and in the end, that's what they needed to end the game. Just such a crazy game.
Jing passive, OP. Can we just call it the way it is?
Now it's confirmed, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, look at that. No other god gets to do that in the entire game. And Joshy puts it on display, man. A game-ending triple kill coming out of base. And LG pull out a miracle game 1. On the other side, if you're LG, I think that while games like that are certainly mentally taxing, the boost you get in morale just by winning that game has got to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, as we compare like Simplicity against Obey, it was the exact same thing, right? Like maybe same thing happens here now, where LG just has a way better early game this game and just runs this game from the start.
Certainly could come out of the gate pretty hot. Simplicity gonna have to do their best to make sure that does not happen, and they'll be in the first pick slot this time around. They banned the Geb right away, which Eonic is known for throughout his career, but had a tough early game that time around. It started off 0-7 or 0-8, but as Finch highlighted on the desk, or on the cast rather, once your team starts falling behind and you're Geb, you're kind of fish food.
Yeah, for sure. I was prepared to talk about this previous games where like, oh, LG can't draft the Geb, Pele, and Discordia, like too weak of a 3-on-3 mid to be able. And to be fair, they did get so run down the early mid game. I think they should probably have lost that game, but I mean, if you make it to late game with these picks, they're just so strong. So I mean, I respect the Geb ban.
I think it's a fair assessment that LG are going to need to pick some more early game. We talked game 1 about how in second pick you've got to ban Isis, Persephone, and probably Ama. And LG aren't getting the memo. They've got none of those banned so far. And Simplicity are focusing out Eonic and his god pool so far. Geb, Athena banned away. Simplicity themselves take away the Isis. So this leaves LG with the option of banning Persephone and just taking whatever they want. Or they could leave it open and hope Simplicity don't take it. No, they're gonna ban it. I think that's the safer call.
Yeah, I think that's pretty smart banning Isis on first pick, because I don't think they're probably not willing to trade Persephone or Isis for the other. So like just ban one, and if LG doesn't ban the other one, sure, great, we get it for free. But if they ban it, whatever.
Makes sense to me. Jormungandr, the first pick for Simplicity. We saw them ban this against LG in the second pick slot in game number 1. Clearly very worried about that for maniaKK. Or excuse me, on the side of Xaliea, maniaKK going to be piloting it now for Simplicity. Jing locked in when you end the game with it. That makes sense to me. And a much better early game with this Merlin locked in for Snoopy.
Yeah, I like Merlin so much better than Discordia. I feel like late game they're kind of similar. I think Merlin still is better than Discordia late game. Like, thing is, Discordia killing tanks, he's so bad at that, right?
Sure.
Merlin is really good at that, and he can still poke the enemy backline same as Discordia. So just a better pick for Snoopy here in general.
Erlang Shen, this kind of goes in line with Simplicity focusing out Eonic in my mind. They ban away the Geb, the Athena. Erlang Shen's been a pick that Eonic has played a decent amount of so far this phase. And there's the set, likely in that ADC role for StreakUp. I like it, but Jing on the other side, I mean, if I'm going to go up against an assassin that's trying to 1v1 me, Jing is the top pick I'd want.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so safe. She can get poked out. If you're ever in trouble, you just ult out, and then you can fly back. You don't lose that much form. So I think that's a super solid pick, yeah.
And you get Ama before the second ban phase. I think LG probably very happy with their first 3 selections. Simplicity still need a little bit more mage damage in their composition right now, and that might be where LG start to look with the bans. Poseidon, a very solid one, a classic pick alongside Erlang Shen. Is there somewhere that you're looking for Simplicity to go with their pick for Deathpanter?
It's kind of weird, right? Because you have sets, you kind of have to choose if you want a mage or a hunter here in this composition. It's hard to get both, unless they decide to go like a magical jungle, like a Hebo or something. The jungle could work, I suppose. But if they don't do that, it's kind of hard. Like, I think a magical ADC would be the best fit, because then you kind of fill the hunter role and the mage role.
Soul would probably be good. I mean, it's enough AoE that I think that you can get away with it, and then your great tower pushing capability.
Yeah.
Okay,
Scylla,
everyone,
more so the latter. I mean, that's just pure damage through and through. Could put Set in the jungle still potentially. I mean, we don't see that much of it these days, but layers often looks very, very good. Scylla and Hunt Batz, the last 2 picks there for Simplicity.
It feels like a SSG draft kind of, doesn't it?
It does. It looks a lot like it.
It's like the Jorm solo to cover the magical damage, and then maybe Scylla dual lane, even though probably won't be. But yeah, pretty interesting.
Susano last pick for Luminosity. That's a good look. I think Luminosity came away with a much better draft than they had in game number 1. It's balanced to the early and mid game. Now, the early game isn't great. Kumbhakarna kind of has to do the majority of the carrying there, but their late game is still nuts with this draft.
Yes, like Merlin, Jing, like 2 of the top late game hyper carries, and then like you have so much objective damage, you have a lot of CC, you have a lot of mobility, just overall really sick draft on LG, while on Simplicity other hand, I feel like their draft is super wonky. They need to execute really well, and then even if they do, they can't struggle with killing objectives and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, their objective killing, both for towers and fire giants, aren't that strong. I mean, Set has good DPS, but it's not great. I mean, it's like your typical assassin. I think Simplicity's draft is all about this amount of CC they have. How well can they blow these beads for Luminosity and then punish you for it? I mean, Fear No Evil, you've got Taunt from Erlang Shen, Scylla Sikkim. I think the whole draft is centered around those.
Yeah, super weird drafts, but like there is some setup for Scylla with the Erlang, but usually I like more setup than that. I mean, Humbats can set you up with the ultimate, but that's kind of wonky to do.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't love Simplicity. I think if they get off to a good early game, because we're going to see the Set ADC, right? And we've seen Set ADC run so many games when if he can get to the point where he start getting solo kills and like start pressuring purple and red buffs and that kind of stuff, he can really run the early mid game. So I think they rely a lot on that this game.
My only concern if I'm Simplicity, well, I shouldn't say only because I have multiple, but a big one that I have is that Scylla is probably there to get picked against Amaterasu because it's one of the better mages against her. You can get over walls, you can run away pretty well from that ultimate, but Susano chases you so well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll see Scylla players just go up into that I'm a monster as a mobility and CC immunity tool, and Susano could not care less that you're CC immune. He'll just outright kill you.
Yeah, true. Then again, that matchup kind of goes both ways because Susano really weak against cripples too, right? So if you do get hit by the Scylla Sikkim, you're in a lot of trouble, but I would expect to see like a Magias or something from Susano that kind of counters what Scylla does as well, so Susano should win that one out.
I think that's a good point. I mean, this draft for Simplicity, I think, puts so much pressure on Deathpanter. How well can he perform with this Scylla? Throughout his career, he's really been thought of as a good facilitator, role player, not necessarily the hard carry. Scylla's not facilitating a whole lot. I mean, you're killing people or you're not doing your job.
Yeah, I mean, look at Anderson. He's getting pentakills and losing games anyway. So.
Yeah, if you're not doing that, that's the bar. So good luck to Deathpanter. I mean, LG's 3v3 in mid. For me, I think Susano takes has one of the longer wind-up periods among assassins. His early clear isn't that good, but his fight is pretty solid, even starting at level 3.
Yeah, like, if he can blink in and connect all his free abilities with his AA cancels in there, even early game, he has potential to do a lot of damage. Also, one thing we should probably talk about is his Jorm Amaterasu matchup in Soul Lane. We've seen that so much this tournament, those two picks going against each other, and I feel like almost every time Jorm has been the one coming out on top pretty heavily against Amaterasu.
Is it because of that Jade Emperor's build for Jorm? Do you think that's what swings it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it must be, right? Like, Warrior Blessing, Jade Emperor is just so tanky, and like, you're up against a physical jungler as well. So like, you get ganked, there's double physical, you have so much physical defense early, and the aura on top of that, like, you pretty much become immortal. It
feels like Ama just relies so much on that little bit of power that she gets from Divine Presence early in the game, and Jade Emperor just immediately removes that from her. I mean,
and some extra on top of that.
Yeah, and a little bit extra. And Berserker Shield, which most Amas get, doesn't have a whole lot of power built in. So I agree. I think that's one where maniaKK can run it. But I think Jorm in the late game, it's kind of risky sometimes. I mean, you get into these situations where you feel like you're doing so much damage, but especially against a composition like LG's, they have so much damage on the return. One Kumbhakarna Mez kills you in the late game.
Yeah, I think Jorm does so well against the immobile mages or the unsafe mages in the late game, where he can like almost always connect his ultimate hits on them, but right? Jing super safe against Jorm. She can use ult if she's in trouble. Merlin has his blink. Merlin though can get dove. There's not a long blink, you know, so Jorm can definitely make a lot of problems from Merlin, but yeah, we'll see.
Now, we talked about Simplicity's mindset and the way that they might have to try and bounce back. Put yourself in LG's shoes. I imagine that you had a lot of games where you were on the defensive and were able to turn it around and win games late like LG just did. How much does that help you as a team?
It does. Like, it's just a confident booster or like a morale boost, if anything. Like, you're on the down foot. They probably already almost started discussing like, oh, what do we pick for next game? Do we ban this? This was too strong. But then like you end up winning that, and you feel like kind of, oh, we can be this far behind and still win. Yeah,
that's a huge confidence booster. I mean, you just look across the way and know that even when you're down 15, 20K, you're not necessarily out of it. And LG, even if they do go on the defensive here, I feel like their defensive composition is just as good as last time. Ama is still there, Jingwei's still there. Merlin provides a lot of the same things that Discordia does, but Kumbhakarna is such a nightmare late game for carries.
Yeah, and the same, like Merlin has a lot of follow-up on Kumbha ult as well, right? So I think LG should be really happy about this draft. I think they probably feel a lot more confident than they did last game. Yeah, I don't know. I really think LG has this.
Now, we really did center a lot of our conversation so far around this Scylla pick. Thank you for bearing with us, everybody. We should be getting into game in just a little bit. Faeles, we talked about him last game, didn't really bring it in the late game. Batz these days, I think a pretty good late game 1v1 character.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's enough against Susano, though? Because Susano might be with the premier late game assassin.
I'm not really sure how that 1-on-1 goes. I think that's kind of a skill matchup where, like, if you know he has beats down, or like if his blink is down, if you can abuse that. Because if they go full damage, they pretty much one-shot each other, both of them, right? So like whoever gets a jump on each other. And then Batz kind of interesting as well, because early mid-game he's more like an ult bot, you know, he ults for your team, good for like the 3-on-3 team fights. But as he gets items online late game, he kind of becomes like a hyper-carry jungler as well.
And you're going to have another one of those alongside that in the Set ADC. We've talked a lot towards the back end of Phase 2 about the fact that Set is a mid-game character. You like him rotating in. But Layers kind of showed us the other end of it when playing the Set jungle. He was winning every late-game team fight with this character. Is it build-dependent? Which way do you think StreakUp should be going here?
It's just like, when we see Set in duo lane, or even Set in jungle these days, we see they build a lot of damage. Not a lot of attack speed, it's mainly just Crusher and then full power pretty much. And you do so much damage. It's just about getting into the team fight at the right point, right? You need someone else to start the team fight for you. Then you can come in when, say, the carries have already used their relics or the leaps to get away. That's when Set comes in. And if you don't have any defense against Set, you just die.
But Merlin's one of the hardest mages to dive because of that elemental mastery. I mean, that change stance changes everything, especially if you can come out of Arcane stance and into Fire stance and then drop the Fire 2 at your feet. I don't know that set can really handle that.
Yeah, sure, but then as I said, like say if someone already maybe forced the Aegis or Merlin, for example, and set pre-beats the arcane knock-up, and like he just kills you so fast when he pops his ult, you get all this minion and he shoves his one into you, and like, yeah, we'll see. It's a hard comp to execute from Simplicity for sure, but if they execute it really well, I think they can win.
Remember, this is the winner's semifinal, so if you just win with this set and the next one, you are into the SMITE World Championship. But even if you lose, you've got games to play. Can still drop down into that lower bracket, and Luminosity trying to make sure that they can send Simplicity there in just one more game. Should be getting ready here for game number 2. Starting right now, we got John Finch and Anatoly bringing you the action.
You guys had a little marathon of your own there on the desk. Appreciate you guys powering through as you move into game number 2. Still Finch and Anatoly and Simplicity, after what just must be a tough, tough loss in that first game, have got to find a way to bounce back. Is that way putting Deathpanter on this Scylla?
It might be better because of StreakUp onto this set in the long lane.
Sure.
If you're looking for that early game momentum, you put an assassin in the long lane, something that Snoopy has actually done back at MSI with the Armada boys, working out really well for him and trying to get that sort of advantage. Could snowball Simplicity's early game, but if that's not going to allow them to convert, then I'm going to have to question this kind of composition.
And might not be able to pan out for them. StreakUp will be lining up across some Joshy on the Jingwei here yet again. That Jingwei passive actually came up big for them in game number 1. He was able to get back to the fight very quickly and clean up some low HP targets that could have otherwise escaped. This could be trouble though for Genetics. He's been caught, hit by the horrific emblem. Even Xalia's here. They brought the whole squad, and first blood for LG.
He got read like a book. Really unfortunate there for Genetics, but this is the importance of dropping the ward over the back cams to kind of see what the positioning is going to be. There's so many different corridors you have to worry about. Entering the right side mid camps, entering the back camps, entering the speed, but you can't keep every single entry point warded, unfortunately.
And it's just so difficult to always know that you're safe doing that strat. And that time, LG were willing to commit a little bit more numbers than we normally see to the defense of that speed buff and make sure they protect Lasbra on this Susano. We've seen games where the jungler, when they get behind as a result of those early invades, it can feel like sometimes the game is over if the other team is strong enough to keep pushing that lead. LG not going to let that happen here.
And against an Erlang Shen, that level 1 power, we saw what Gamma was able to do with that support Erlang Shen earlier on the hype unit versus hype unit matchup. So I respect the LG play there to have 4 players waiting for a trap. Genetics struggling in the experience per minute category, whereas we're seeing Eonic a little bit of a level lead.
Yeah, and it's just worth noting, by the way, that Gamma really just had a great set in general. I know it ended up being a loss for them, but hard, I think, to put any of that on him as Lasbra's been caught. And there's the crush from Deathpanter. Hello, the Scylla is certainly here to play as they find their first kill.
The cripple into the crush, even powerful at level 2, some would say. It's only going to get scarier with a couple more levels and items for Deathpanter. Not normally known for playing the Scylla, more of a hunter kind of player, straying away from the likes of the AMC and Uller to go for this magical burst mage. And that's something that they were heavily missing, I feel, in the last game, is that magical burst damage.
Erlang shit's good, huh? I mean, he's like you said, he's the one that kind of sets up for that play to happen in favor there of Deathpanter with that crush on the back end. Mages just dropped the damage afterwards, but Erlang Shen, I mean, he kind of went away in the jungle role after a lot of nerfs that he got and some of the items that he likes to build, but there's still certainly spots where he makes a ton of sense, and I think support in this early aggressive meta, that's one of them.
Yeah, the amount of control, I think, from Simplicity, it's almost disrespectful. The fact that Lasbra opted for Blink at level 1 as opposed to the Purification Beads. Once he was knocked up into the air, he was dead to rights there. Left side mid camp's getting split 1 for 1 there. Genetics not going to be aggressive any longer, and it's important to see how Deathpanter can transition from this early game, as long as the attention is not onto him.
Eonic is the one in trouble now. That Mez does allow him to reposition, but still taking a few shots. Not going to be able to get the kill. He should have the passive anyway, even if he was brought down, so that's a good defense from him. But Simplicity want this red buff invade too. They get in. They're gonna look for more. Snoopy is low and has almost no mana available to him. So Genetics go to the mink form. StreakUp gets the kill into Snoopy, and they take Joshy's
The
beads.
skewer just barely catches him at the tail end of it all. A great pick right on top of this Merlin early game that I don't think had Shoes of Focus completed at that point of the game. And Lasbra doing whatever he can to at least strip away the back camps.
And StreakUp being able to rotate over to that fight was huge. It's, as you said, a lot of the times these assassins in lane can kind of bully their hunters that they're up against, especially someone who can be a bit slower in lane like the Jing Wei, and that allowed for StreakUp to get over there and really impact that fight around that red buff. Plus Eonic taking a lot of poke right before it.
Yeah, great rotation from StreakUp. If you're not going to find the kills this early on in the 1v1 to Joshy, make these semi-rotations to make the impact there, because once you're level 9, you have the Warrior Tabi complete, maybe even Ninja Tabi, you have maybe half of a Transcendence completed. There is kill potential with the 2 points into the Kingslayer, even up against Joshy's Jing Wei.
Joshy had a great game last time. He's geared up to have a repeat performance. The Jets talked a lot about how much they liked LG's draft here. It's good in multiple stages of the game, especially when they get to that mid to late game where they can play around all this control from the Kumbhakarna. And that Simplicity might be a bit harder to execute, but so far it's looked relatively simple, hasn't it? I mean, Genetics or anyone control someone for long enough for Crush to get out there, and then Scylla's right there to follow up.
It's good positioning on the front line, better positioning on the back line to follow up. Deathpanter is at the right place to follow from the aggression of Genetics. That wasn't deterred after giving up first blood before the minions even met in the middle of their respective lanes. So good confidence from Genetics, because it's not only off of that first blood death, but it's also off of a agonizing first game loss.
That's exactly right. It has got to be tough, I think, to not only lose, but then to give up that first blood in such a way, and then to still come out and play aggressive, man, and put yourself out there where you could end up falling behind and maybe even costing your team the game. No, Genetics doesn't worry about that at all. He's got this true confidence in himself, and it's really helped out the Simplicity team as they're dead even, but only through 5 minutes of play.
Simplicity having the timer of LG's purple buff, strip that one away. Joshy not able to confirm that one. It is going to hurt his ability to out-farm StreakUp a little bit, and that's going to kind of close that gap for that solo kill potential eventually. And normally when you see the set being locked in, you generally want to lock in maybe an Athena to deal with the aggression from the set, but not going to have that kind of global pressure from LG to deal with StreakUp.
They won't be able to rotate nearly as quickly here this time, but as long as they are predictive in the rotations, maybe they won't run into any issues. There's been a lot of openings, I feel like, in these support builds lately, totally. We're seeing the reinforced shoes and or greaves from both of these two supports and the Guardian's Blessings. And a lot of talk about Thieves lately. I imagine they'll be right there following it up. You think support's got just about anything they want to go right about now?
I mean, you can't be mad about 21 protections at the end of the day. A little bit of damage over time from StreakUp. A little bit of damage over time from maniaKK as well. Snoopy on the Merlin, Lasbra with the jet stream. So there's merit to this item. Crowd control reduction, never bad as well. There's certainly a lot of crowd control from both teams.
Certainly could have plenty of value, and Eonic has the horrific emblem to go along with this. We saw it earlier. It's really what helped set up that kill into Genetics more than anything else when they caught him in the jungle. And it feels like this item doesn't get bought nearly as much as it probably should be. The upgraded version is excellent, and there's way less sprints or heavenly agilities out there nowadays too, so you can usually get away with it.
That was the point I was going to make. Because of the lack of sprints, horrific emblem becomes more valuable. It's a different way of utilizing a defensive shell because you are mitigating the opponent's damage. So in theory, it's kind of like a shell, except in a different way. Once you upgrade it, you're not only reducing the damage, but also the attack speed. So StreakUp is going to feel it. Genetics and Faeles as well. So overall, good relic.
Big pincer move, though, here from LG. Deathpanter responds by using the I'm a Monster to get away, but Genetics has no such luxury. Deathpanter comes back in for damage, but cannot find it. LG get a clean pick off a 4-man gank.
Ooh, Joshy avoiding that skewer. Even drops a word at the red buff once he heard and saw Deathpanter activate that ultimate. So another clean pick there from LG that utilized that player advantage. Genetics with a second death of the game.
Genetics don't dying is not the end of the world for Simplicity. Though on the Erlang Shen support, it's probably not as okay as it might be on something like a Geb. You want him to be aggressive. But LG can just keep doing this throughout this early to mid game, collapsing, out-rotating Simplicity. They're never going to be able to have quite as good of these team fights as Simplicity, so they've got to make sure they're there in slightly better numbers.
It's much harder to kind of defend for Simplicity's aggression when Simplicity are doing it on their own terms. When you're forcing the team fights onto Deathpanter, and he's using that Monster defensively to utilize that 35% movement speed you get, then now you don't have to worry about that return fire damage. He's a non-factor with any root crush combination. Makes it easier to catch out Genetics. That is a sitting duck because of that horrific emblem. It's a very slow turtle.
Hard for him to get away in the turtle, or in the form he most prefers to be in. I wonder what's going on here with Lasbra. Maybe he's not splitting as much with Snoopy, or is missing some camps, because he's XP a good bit behind Faeles here right now in terms of levels, when really nothing crazy has happened that should be preventing him from farming.
Yeah, every time he was aggressive, he stripped away the back right camps at one time, but you're not getting full value from these invades this early on before the 15-minute mark. It's better to just get your own camps anyway. The only time it's beneficial to solo strip away a farm on the enemy side is when you have nothing left on your own side to farm.
You can go over there and then still get that full swing of you gaining some value and taking the full value away from your opposition. But maybe if you're trading away your own, it's not quite worth, because you're not getting that full value. Something worth considering as Lasbra decides to complete the Brawler's Beat Stick here early. And there is a good bit of healing to worry about. Genetics and StreakUp in particular are ones you want to limit. So I'm right there with Lasbra in that mentality.
Yeah, if you're going to try to 1v1 against a set that's diving you, yeah, Brawler's Beat Stick, not a bad idea in the slightest. Good follow-up damage from Snoopy as well that probably will rush the Divine Ruin if I were to take a little bit of a guess here. Snoopy has taken an early spill thus far, but still more experience.
What a flicker from Snoopy just now to avoid being caught there by that blink initiation from Genetics. Instead, they have to settle for Eonic, and that target's just nowhere near as good. That's just good heads-up play, and good work from Doug being there at the right time.
Yeah, and Deathpanter as well. Thought for sure Genetics had the follow-up there off of that blink. He commits into the Monster. He throws and activates the hit. A little bit off the mark there off of the flicker. Good reaction time from Snoopy's, but Simplicity are still remaining aggressive, which is a good sign for them because their composition requires them to be aggressive. Maybe not necessarily onto Faeles right away, because you want to have that secondary layer of an engagement there, and that's where the Fear No Evil is going to be the secondary engage.
Luminosity starting to push forward a little bit, or at least just Eonic. He's got to be careful though. He could easily get isolated. StreakUp's damage is already plenty relevant just with the Transcendence not even fully stacked here at this point. So Eonic's got to make sure he's watching out. He's working on a Gauntlet of Thebes, it looks like, next, so once that's finished, he'll obviously have a good deal more tankiness, but until then, gotta be mindful.
Ooh, a little bit too short for Deathpanter on the road, and Gauntlet of Thebes is such a core item on support. Onto both Genetics, that is the aggressive warrior support, and even Eonic, the more defensive guardian support. It gives you 275 health, 60 protections of both, and 10 of those protections are coming through the aura, which is also benefiting from your teammates.
It's tough, man. I think that at the SPL level, supports are so important. They oftentimes dictate the entire pace of the early to mid game right alongside the jungler. But sometimes in the home games, the supports can really struggle, like in your casual. So I'm glad they have a nice item like Gauntlet of Thebes there. But there are some times in the SPL where it does seem pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But trying to see how they can convert that to the mid-game control, because thus far, it's been a little bit quiet from Genetics after the blink attempt there, as Snoopy was able to narrowly avoid that one. He has more experience there from compared to Deathpanter, despite Snoopy being the one to take an early spill. Deathpanter struggling a little bit in the farming category.
Look at this from Xaliea, another Cursed Ankh being picked up. We saw this earlier on in the day as well, this item, or rather this relic selection becoming a bit more popular. We saw it, I think it was against the King Arthur, and it was really giving that King Arthur some fits whenever he would try and dive in and look for the sustain. Here in this matchup, maybe that's the same idea of StreakUp commits and shut him down.
Yeah, it makes more sense now because there is guaranteed self-sustain. Once Genetics pops his Night Turns Blessing, you can't not heal from it, right? And StreakUp using the Kingslayer.
maniaKK being caught out, but does make it into the ultimate in time, and he had a good bit of time too to work with on that one. Makes it out of there, as that's been the strat from LG. They rotate S4 and pick a target to collapse on. That time, though, maniaKK makes it out.
And there's no teleport now for maniaKK. This could be a tower for Xaliea if he sticks around this right side of the map, but he's going to use this advantage instead to rotate in middle and maybe make an impact.
And I don't know if Genetics and the squad realize it, but in the end, Xaliea doesn't really leave too far from home. I'm a monster, doesn't find Snoopy, Faeles, comes in with a Fear No Evil, and that's enough damage. Faeles gets there. There was a shot in the middle from Deathpanter as well, and they put Snoopy down.
Really awkward rotation from Xaliea because he hesitates along the way. He was making this half rotation, then he was considering proxying between that tier 1 and tier 2, and as Tom likes to say, hesitation leads to devastation, and if Xaliea was there 5 to 10 seconds earlier, that play aggressively by Simplicity wouldn't have existed in the first place.
It would have been shut down. Instead, Xaliea ends up in that in-between ground, and that could be something that's difficult. You know, off a power play or an opportunity where you've got a moment to go make a play, it can be difficult sometimes to find those windows, but Xaliea doesn't really get anything out of it.
It's just so weird. It's like either push the tower or rotate, and he did neither.
Yeah. You're exactly right. You got to be able to capitalize in those moments. If you're trying to make it to Worlds where you play against 6 of the other best teams in the world, 7 really when you consider the other team that's going to qualify out with you, you got to be able to capitalize on even small windows like that. Certainly not back-breaking, but perhaps just a missed opportunity.
Yes, I would agree with you. It's not going to like cost them the game off of this non-rotation, but every play leads to something small in the future off of that. A little bit of a ripple effect. It could give Simplicity some more confidence now to continue that aggression, but what if Xaliea got there, and then they try to look for that play, and then they just get ultimately shut down? Not only does Snoopy survive, but then all of a sudden, Simplicity, they lose 3 members in the process. Then their mentality gets probably shut down completely at that point in the game.
We saw it happen earlier with Neil Ma in an SK set, this exact tournament, where a very small miss on a stun means that the speed buff gets invaded. Sam got bullied that game. There's just always a knock-on effect as Joshy has to use Airstrike to get away from StreakUp. I don't know if StreakUp's fully ready to give up on it. He takes quite a bit of damage, though, for the trouble.
Does have 20% CDR, so I like the idea and the mindset. If he hits that skewer with the 2 clones, might have been a kill onto Joshy, or might have forced him back prematurely to maybe get this tower. Still will clear the next wave is StreakUp, so no harm, no foul. Training out the ultimate for StreakUp with 20% CDR. Out trades Joshy that has 0% CDR in his build.
So should have it back up sooner. We'll see if StreakUp looks to capitalize on that next time. At the very least, though, Joshy did hold on to his relics. Didn't feel as if he had to use Dragus or anything like that, so that's a nice win for him in that regard. As he's already starting to work on some crit. Got to imagine this is going to be a rage for the lad to start getting that crit chance built up, and he can go from there. Yeah,
40% critical strike chance. Never a bad thing to synergize with the explosive bolts as well, amplifying it by about 15 to 20% if I'm not mistaken. So really good in that level 16, 17 marker here. Still seeing LG kind of be patient in this mid game. It's been more aggressive attempts out of Simplicity, despite them being down 1 game in this best-of-3 set.
The patience boded well for Luminosity in game number 1. They were willing to go beyond the hour mark to make sure they could seal that game up in their own favor, so don't be surprised if they continue to do that same sort of patience here in game number 2. I was seeing a lot more on like Twitter and such, of people talking about how good Jing is after that really nice game from Joshy. Barracuda kind of been known playing Jing even when no one else really was.
Yeah, that season 3 LG days when him and Xenotronics was basically switching between the Jing or the Soul at any given Sunday, it felt like.
It certainly did, huh? That's an old school pick for him. This, though, is some of that new school Simplicity, 17 minutes in, pulling the Gold Fury, but not going to stick on it. LG shows some presence, and that's enough to scare Simplicity off.
Ooh, maniaKK, though, in the back line. Meets up with the Eonic and Xaliea. Genetics going to get stunned out a little bit. maniaKK, though, getting surrounded.
Yeah, he does end up feeling he has to use the ultimate. This might chase down Snoopy. StreakUp underneath the tier 2 with Eonic zoned away, gets the kill, and Genetics wants more as well. He's hunting down Lasbra in the back line. Xalia's here with the dazzling offensive, though, to try and provide some peel, and more than peel, he gets the kill on a StreakUp.
StreakUp gonna get punished heavily for his transgression. Slow onto Xaliea. Rude narrowly off the mark. That divine presence mobility a little bit too much, despite getting that crushing slow there. I'm surprised that he was still able to just narrowly avoid that one.
Eonic could be in trouble if he gets knocked up here, but Simplicity not looking for it. Instead, they leave. At the very least, after that 1-for-1 trade, mid laner for the carry in the long lane, Simplicity do get that red buff invade, so they slightly come out ahead.
Trading a level 16 set for a level 14 Merlin.
Oh, well, that's fair.
No harm, no foul. At the end of the day, neither team opting for this Gold Fury. Without the Ama Monster, I don't see why Simplicity would try to go for it quite yet. Even though with Crush alone, that almost feels like another secondary ultimate even at this point in the game.
Crush already starting to swing. And Tully, I can't believe we watched that 62-minute game and I didn't think to refill my water or something or have something in here.
Like a popcorn, some
yeah,
snacks
something
as
like
well.
that. LG are ready to buckle down, man. They are going to wait until you give them the opening, and then they'll walk right through.
You know what it is? You got to ask yourself, does Xaliea have Amaterasu? If yes, buckle on in, because it's a long one.
Xaliea is certainly willing to go play the long game here with that Amaterasu pick. He's got the Berserker Shield, Ninja Tabai, but not following any more into that attack speed build we sometimes see from them. It's just into the Runic and the Void Shield right after that.
I think it's going to be good for Xaliea in the late game no matter what direction he goes. He got the Runic Shield to mitigate the magical power out of Deathpanter by 50. maniaKK is going to be doing less damage as well once he does commit, but it's important of how you stop StreakUp here. We're not really seeing a Jade Emperor's Crown out of Eonic, and that needs to be picked up to mitigate the physical power from StreakUp.
It would be a big deal when he gets to that back line if he's 30 power lesser for the trouble. And Eonic could be right there to be that zoning duty. Simplicity considering trying to bait a fight here around the Gold Fury. They've got the aggressive positioning beyond the halfway mark here, that line in the middle of the map, and LG unwilling to step beyond it. Man, this is so many shades of Game 1 to me. LG are so willing to play patient.
Simplicity kind of zoning out LG while they're trying to go and regather themselves for this Gold Fury attention. It's going to get silenced, a little bit of a root, 10% health off of his total health bar, but it's maniaKK. That could be a little bit of trouble as well.
They've been willing to look for maniaKK to see if they can force the ultimate out suboptimally from him, but maniaKK has been patient these last few fights, not dropping it early if he does not have to. That's a blink in from Genetics, though. That gets 2 sets of beads. Joshy and Snoopy end up too close together, and maniaKK gobbles them up as the Jormungandr StreakUp is low way on the back line, too. And Xaliea does enough damage to make it 1-for-1.
Still another 1-for-1. Eonic throws one into the sky. Faeles, keeping Lasbra out of the equation. Eonic in no man's land. No way for him to get out.
Yeah, he almost certainly will die here. The Mez, the dash, all allowing him to reposition. The pen finally puts him inside the passive, so maniaKK is able to grab that kill as well. That makes it 2-for-1 in favor of Simplicity.
All it took was a little bit of misdirection here, just a little bit of a lapse of awareness out of LG as Snoopy was too grouped up. He gets hit by too much AoE there at the end of the day. We saw great mechanics out of him avoiding a mid lane blink gank by Genetics, but this time around faltered ever so slightly.
Just a little bit of overlap between them, and that made for a really good 9 turns blessing out from Genetics. I mean, I was crediting the patience of Luminosity, but what about Genetics waiting on that setup there to be able to start that fight out? That was a perfect window that he walked on through and was able to set up that kill. But even with it, no Gold Fury goes down. It ends up being a 2-for-1, so relatively even or pretty close to it in terms of the trade. The only big difference I'm seeing is that Lasbra still is staying about 2 levels or so behind Faeles. He just hasn't been able to catch up.
I'm not super worried about the fact because he is still going to be a late game Susano that does have one-shot potential there once he gets a little bit more damage, but he's not building that way now. He's opting to go for probably, I'm assuming, a Mad Guy's Cloak. A lot of disruption here from Simplicity between this Erlang, Shen. Even following up there is going to be Deathpanter Faeles with that Fear No Evil, so a very necessary pickup out of Lasbra.
And think about it, LG only has 1 blink. In this day and age, it's pretty rare as the 9 turns blessing comes out from Genetics. They're underneath the tier 1. I'm a Monster doesn't find much, but they should at least be able to get the tower. Meanwhile, Xaliea will continue to push over in the right lane as well. This might not be a bad trade for LG.
No, definitely not, and that's why Simplicity wanted to fight 5-on-4 because there was no Amaterasu late game present on that mid lane. So tier 2 tower not being looked at by Xaliea. He did make this rotation possibility, and LG hold on to their tier 1 middle tower.
Yeah, very surprising. It's for show mostly. It would fall over if you blew on it, but that's Still something, at least. No goal for Simplicity just yet. But maniaK has made his way to the back line. He's looking for Snoopy. The Consuming Bellow doesn't quite find a home, and maniaK still has that ultimate if he needs it. StreakUp goes right towards Snoopy in the back line. He makes it out yet again, and now the collapse on the maniaK forces the ultimate.
Uses one strike in the world, serving the second one. There goes the Fear No Evil out of Faeles, looking at Lasbra as he blinks away.
But Xalia's got this dazzling offensive, and he finds a couple targets. But Eonic's starting to get low, so is Xaliea. StreakUp finds that first kill, and the rest of LG have to fall back. They can't seem to keep up with LG in these drawn-out, or Simplicity in these drawn-out fights.
Yeah, Lasbra tried to go on Genetics at the very end of it all. Joshy comes back into this fight, but StreakUp already cleans up Snoopy.
And now Joshy's in some trouble. Taunted in, he cannot find the trades. Lasbra comes in as well, but Deathpanter flattens him like a pancake with the I'm a monster, and Simplicity finally cracked this game open.
A 4-0 here. Simplicity with complete control of this objective. It took a long time to confirm it, but 24 minutes in, the first goal Fury going down for Simplicity.
And it just feels like Luminosity can't quite get to the back line the same way that Simplicity can. And a lot of that's just StreakUp. You buy that time with maniaK on the front line. He sucks in just a couple of members a little bit too far away, and then he's suddenly ready to start doing a whole bunch of damage to the back line.
I mean, Simplicity are pushing forward. LG are just kind of reacting to it instead of repositioning themselves for it. It's hard to really force your way through maniaK's Jormungandr. He's a big old snake kind of in the middle of everything, and you don't want to take all that AoE damage because even though he is tanky, he's also dealing a decent amount of return damage with the Shoes of Magi, a little bit of penetration on top of the Stone of Binding once he does kind of daze you or knock you up, so you have to respect his damage once he dies.
You certainly do. Pyromancer being pulled now by Simplicity, and they enjoy about a 3,000 gold lead, though I don't think much of it's been spent. They grab the Pyromancer as well, even with LG nearby, and now they can go back and spend a little bit of that cash.
Relic Dagger and the Oni Hunter Guard being picked up from Genetics. A little bit of a switch up compared to the last game. Snoopy in a lot of trouble.
I'm a monster for 1,000. That'll end him, Snoopy. Watching the game in black and white for a while, and this has been a problem, man. This Merlin's 1-6-2 Simplicity got a bullseye on his head.
More of a problem besides the lack of a scoreline from Snoopy is how uncontested Deathpanter has been so far. 2-0-4. He's been left virtually untouched this entire game, and Joshy felt the full force of the hide enemy line in that one.
Goodness gracious, a little bit too much damage coming out there from maniaK, and Joshy now gonna have to take a seat on the bench as well. This game was even for so long, but around that fight on the goal, Fury, Simplicity have opened this up. They got that 4-0, and now they're the ones in control.
That's the way you deal with crit. You pick up hide enemy line. A lot of hunters forgot about that, honestly, as I'm sure if Joshy has looked at his death recap screen to see what damage sources he took from hide enemy line, probably did at least 300 damage, if not more, in conjunction with that Thorns.
It makes it really hard for these crit builds to hit home. And there was a lot of discussion about, can Jormungandr be one of those solo laners who can effectively reflect crit? You know, do you really want him at the front of the fight, just tanking damage? You much more, you know, would want him kind of getting that ultimate off and being able to put damage in the backline. But there, maniaK isolated Joshy quite well and won that trade.
The answer is definitely yes. Jormungandr can be super effective diving that backline with or without the ultimate for the cleanup. 4-0-3, very clean slash line out of the Spanish here, solo laner. The Portuguese powerhouse, I believe F. likes to call him there, hailing from Portugal. Simplicity now has control of game number 2. Similar story, though, to game number 1, but at this point, they were much more ahead, I believe, than their only 7,000 gold lead.
That's a great point. I mean, how confident can you feel as Simplicity when you consider the way that game number 1 went when you had an even more substantial lead? So they're going to want to play this one as by the book as possible, I imagine, and really try and dot their I's, cross their T's to make sure they don't let this one slip away like they did with that game 1. Because as great as LG played, I do think it was a bit more of it slipping away from it, Simplicity more than anything else.
And their sieging composition, they don't have a traditional physical or magical hunter. They have StreakUp playing this set, which is a good damage dealing god on structures, yes, but you have to be up close and personal to do your damage, and I don't think that's where StreakUp wants to be. And with Deathpanter not having Polynomicon for extra basic attack damage, that makes it harder to confirm some of these structures.
Snoopy gets caught by the Sikkim, but not the Crush. Lasbra bottom of the game in player damage. I was just thinking he's felt quiet this time, and I guess that's why. I mean, he's been trying to keep up and farm this whole time, but I don't know if you can just go 28 minutes without doing much of anything.
Oh, a nice double taunt from Genetics. In the backline, Xaliea forced to use that ultimate defensively. Simplicity going to take that trade and then just disengage.
Root lands here from Eonic and the two-man Mez, but that's more about trying to force Simplicity back than looking for any particular setup. Eonic is sticking right with maniaKK, but he's got to be careful. You don't want to have him turn around just like this, but instead he can't find it. It's Genetics that looks for Snoopy.
Snoopy in a lot of trouble there, getting knocked up after he already used the flicker. He was forced to beads away from that root out of Deathpanter. Great Sentry Ward vision control coming out of Simplicity.
Yeah, I just don't know why Eonic was spending so much time trying to hug maniaKK over there on the right-hand side. I mean, that makes it a lot easier for Genetics to just kind of walk up to Snoopy.
Yeah, both relics now consumed. He's very vulnerable for the next 155 seconds without the Aegis or the Purification beads. And you know Simplicity have those relic timers on the back of their mind during this next scuffle.
And it felt like that in game one, remember, that LG were a bit disconnected, and then they were able to turn around on one of the harder parts of the game, which is defending the base effectively and then pushing back out. I wonder if that same thing is still happening here for them, because Lasbra hasn't been able to find his spot. Eonic has been weirdly far forward in a lot of different spots as well. It does still feel like maybe this LG team hasn't completely gelled yet.
No, and it's going to be harder now because Deathpanter can punish you in these jungle and skirmishes here. If you don't know where the Scylla is lined up as she's aiming down the corridor with that Root Crush combination, you're certainly going to feel the pain, especially if you have no more relics. And Snoopy needs to be careful with his positioning.
Oni Fury's at half HP. maniaKK on right has Lasbra and Xaliea there. Eonic, the only front line to try and help out Snoopy and Joshy. Oni pulled again down to about a quarter, but that's been leashed at this point. maniaKK still trying to stab the front line, but here's StreakUp and Genetics coming in for the two-man taunt, and then maniaKK coming in as cleanup crew. My own monster does not find the reset. In fact, Joshy gets some big crits, and LG still all alive. In fact, they get StreakUp.
StreakUp dies somehow. Faeles using that ultimate to clean up Snoopy, and now jumping right on top of Eonic, gets him in the passive with the monkey toss. Genetics getting kind of poked down from the backside out of Joshy, but it was only one dead from Simplicity. LG, they lose 3 in response.
They do. Another 800 maybe from Lasbra in that fight. I mean, I don't know. That initiation from Simplicity was pretty nasty. It's hard to do much of anything about that. They've got Deathpanter taking this up. Yeah, they need someone else to get in here and take that from them. It'll be Faeles as they grab this Oni Fury. But LG have not been able to figure them out this game.
And it's surprising that they haven't, because every engage from Simplicity has been the same. It's been Genetics blinking in, 9 turns Blessing. He catches 2 players, somebody bees. Here comes maniaKK for the cleanup after the fact. You got to spread out so that way once Genetics does commit, he's only catching 1 target with a taunt, so he's not getting that much value out of it, and LG have been faltering around that engagement.
Wow, look how much damage maniaKK and StreakUp did in that last fight. You saw those damage numbers there from that recap, and those two responsible for a lot of the work. And Simplicity following up on really good setup from Genetics. And you hit on this way back at the beginning of the game, Tolly, that Simplicity does have really good setup, right? They got Fear No Evil and this 9 turns Blessing from Genetics. But if LG were engaging on them, it makes all those tools a lot worse when they're not engaging on their own terms. But LG have really sat back on their hands kind of the whole set so far. It worked for them in game 1, so I don't want to knock it, but it's allowed for Simplicity to gain control here.
Well, they're going to have to figure something out late game, because they're not making it happen quite yet. And I agree, the amount of control from Simplicity is good. In fact, it's great. And if I'm LG, I have to be worried about it. So Maga's Cloak is a must purchase. Lasbra with 1, Xaliea with another. We're seeing Spirit Robe out of Eonic, going for a Mantle of Discord now. So that's going to be another form of CC immunity once he does get under that 30% health threshold.
And Snoopy is still on this Merlin, despite 7 deaths for him. He's been clearly the target. He should still be very strong in terms of their Phoenix defense. As maniaKK goes for a pincer maneuver, he goes right to the back line looking for Joshy, so Genetics gets active on the front line. maniaKK does make it into the ultimate. No, the dust from Snoopy end up burning him to death.
What a play there from all of LG. A very ambitious play from maniaKK, trying to make that flank a possibility. Fails. Forced to blink away from that one. Eonic not wanting to give this one up. Xaliea can continue this chase if it really wants to with that 25% movement speed.
I like that call from maniaKK, but it just doesn't quite get the execution they want. Faeles slow, but Xaliea has the dazzling offensive, full disengage with it, despite the fact that maniaKK's down. I wonder if that's because Joshy's elsewhere. But either way, Simplicity are surging forward. They're undeterred. StreakUp wants to get to the back line.
The Root Crush right on top of Eonic. Typhoon turns out, fails, but the counterplay. There goes Lasbra winning the one-on-one.
Starting to show up here for him when they need him the most. Gets the kill onto Faeles. He's dead for 58 seconds. It's quietly become 33 minutes into this match. So these respawn timers are a lot longer than you might think. Simplicity finally start to overstep, an LG answer.
I think that this could be opening the window here for the Fire Giant if LG want to try to go for it, but instead get the tier 1 middle tower. Joshy waiting for his teammates to come back from the fountain to be a little bit healthier for this one. Fury not due to respawn for another 2 minutes. maniaKK is up. Faeles still dead for another 25 seconds. 5-on-4 power play for LG.
They've got the advantage here, but how can they possibly capitalize on it? Fire Giant started. The very first one of the game is going to be enhanced. That's how long it's taken for us to get to this point. maniaKK is right underneath the ground. I doubt LG want a hard commit to this at point, even without Faeles here. But now that the ring is up, it's going to be that much harder for them to leave.
Looking for it. Looking for the bait. Genetics not taking the bite quite yet. Tries to root Xaliea, catches out his Mad Guy's cloak. In the backline is Lasbra, forces to disengage out of Deathpanter.
And maniaKK tries to push back in, but gets forced out. Joshy's taking quite a bit of damage at this point, so they're likely not looking for the fight, but StreakUp wanted to get to Snoopy yet again. Just that time he couldn't.
Time wasted out of LG. Faeles is now back up, and this is why Simplicity is going in.
Another blink engage from Genetics. Those have really worked for them this game. Only Eonic eats the crush from Deathpanter this time, which is A-OK in the eyes of LG. But they got some members that need to back. Snoopy and Eonic both want to get topped up before this fight starts, but Simplicity will not let them as maniaKK starts to dive.
Looking for Snoopy in the back line. Throws out one strike. There goes the second one. Look at Xaliea in the back and fails.
And Monster's already been consumed. Xaliea eats the crush, but it's Genetics who's low. Xaliea might be able to get the kill. maniaKK's way in the back line. Eonic's incredibly low, but gets off the epic uppercut. Faeles is done. StreakUp looking to find the cleanup kill into Snoopy, but Joshy gets Genetics.
It's a 3-for-1. Only Snoopy goes down, and StreakUp behind enemy lines. His Kingslayer is no longer active. He got spotted by a ward, and he's going to get pincered by Xaliea and Joshy.
Big crits coming out from the Jing way as well, and suddenly a 4-for-1 for LG. And I know Snoopy's a lot of their damage onto this Fire Giant, but with Joshy here and with that crit build finished off, they should be able to shred it. They just have to watch out for Deathpanter's steal potential if he wants to stick around.
Even without Monster, Crush is worthy enough of an ability to steal away this objective. He's not close enough right now, but Eonic is not going to let this be a possibility. He will sniff out the Scylla.
Places down a ward. They've got a good idea where he is, and I think that's it for Deathpanter. He can't come in by himself, or he'll risk dying to the hands of Lasbra. Simplicity did it in that mid game with the fight around Gold Fury with their mid-Harpy fight as well, and they opened up control.
I like this. They're waiting for Snoopy to respawn. Wait for that 5 seconds.
You're exactly right. They are going to give some time here for Snoopy to make it in. That's not bad to get him that Fire Giant buff too, but now it's LG patiently waiting for Simplicity to overcommit beyond the tier 2 with maniaKK for this fight around the FG where Simplicity can't execute it cleanly, and now LG are the ones in control.
Yeah, that seems to be the one downside when maniaKK does go in. He seems to die very quickly. It's a very cost-effective build here with the Stone of Binding and the Wing Blade, but it's not the most amount of protections in the world. This is where Snoopy's damage is going to be felt, you know, like the Blizzard right on top of where maniaKK is rooted in place by Eonic. If he doesn't get off that World Serpent in time, he's going to eat the full force of this full build out of the level 20 Merlin. Despite being 3 and 8, it doesn't matter. Snoopy is 6 items deep.
You're exactly right. He's made it to 36 minutes here in the game at this point, right? 37 basically on the clock, so he's going to be every bit relevant as you might want. maniaKK attempting to be a sneaky Jormungandr here, and they might catch Lasbra unawares. This should at least get the Mad Guy's cloak. Not a bad trade.
Nothing sneaky about a beating heartbeat under the ground as you feel the vibrations under your feet in the battleground of the gods, Finch.
You're exactly right, man. You should know when maniaKK's on his way. And this is curious. LG have been playing this Fire Giant very slow so far. Haven't made any attempts to go siege. In fact, they're looking at grabbing the Gold Fury. Blink 9 turns Blessing, and I'm a monster. And Joshy already has to leave. And who else but StreakUp and maniaKK are right there to try and capitalize. But even still, Joshy still alive.
Why is maniaKK not using his ultimate. Finally, Faeles is going to find that kill at the back line. They're using that ultimate defensively right against Snoopy, but he's going to get taken out.
Lasbra gets the kill onto Faeles. They need this knockup. They need Deathpanter's damage. Snoopy tries to turn things around and does enough damage for Xaliea to get the first kill. Lasbra gets the second, and now it's just maniaKK left here alongside Genetics. Even Xaliea coming in. They will lose Lasbra here in trade. It's a 3 for 3 so far.
Genetics rooted in play. Xaliea looking for the pick as well. Has that Divine Presence mobility to chase this one out. A good mesmerize onto Genetics and Root. Slowed down ever so slightly. Not wanted to dive beyond that tier 1 tower. And I gotta look back at maniaKK holding on to that ultimate a little bit when Joshy used that airstrike. It was Faeles diving in the backline to find the kill, but then he gets instantly taken out by Snoopy. And I gotta think, if maniaKK uses his ultimate there, Faeles can hold on to his own Fear No Evil a little bit longer for a more efficient one.
I am a bit surprised as well that maniaKK was so willing to wait there. Maybe they thought they'd be able to get that cleanup kill onto Joshy much sooner, because multiple people tried to get back there and get it, but in the end, that confirmed took too long to come through. But remember, LG was the team with the Fire Giant going into that fight. They lost it off 3 members. It's only on Xaliea and Eonic now, so really, even though the numbers come out pretty even, it's probably a win for Simplicity.
LG, though, trying to go for the gold here yet again. We saw how Genetics was able to stop it with the ultimate from Deathpanter this time around. Deathpanter not nearby to steal it.
And this is the regular Gold Fury, right? That this is 40 minutes into the game?
Yeah.
I mean, all right.
It's the first one went down around 23, 24 minutes into the game. Both of these teams, a lot of pressure, right? Like, the winner of this one advances to face SK in that best of 5 upper bracket finals. And winner of that one qualifies towards High Res Expo.
It's just that simple of a path, though I imagine the execution would be leaving a lot to be figured out. That SK team looks very, very strong right now, but so do both of these teams. Simplicity went the distance, 62 minutes in game 1. LG bounced back to grab the win. Whoever makes it, I think SK is going to have a worthy opponent on the other side from them, but that's still tomorrow. For today, we have not yet decided the winner here of this match. We're crossing the 40-minute threshold, and it's still a dead even tie.
I'm still thinking back to Season 5 and Signum days. Deathpanter, Genetics, Lasbra was on that team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was StreakUp or Spudio at the time there.
I'm not sure either.
But either way, like, there's a lot of history between some of these players.
There is.
And a lot of mind games as well.
Yeah, I wonder if, if that's part of it. Lasbra, the one that was able to make that move up to the SPL kind of as a mid laner for that phase 1, but they brought him back as a jungler in phase number 2, and Simplicity. Oh, some of those players haven't quite made that same jump. I'm sure they wouldn't mind a chance to knock the old pal around once or twice here in this game, but so far, it's been LG that have come out the betters, at least in game 1. Game 2, though, still remains to be determined.
Lasbra has been very quiet. He hasn't even entered the 5-digit damage marker here, sitting
It's not
at
enough.
9,800 damage as a late game Susano. He just hasn't had the opportunities to find the holes to poke into on the backline. It's because Simplicity have been the ones engaging first. Genetics' Blink, 9 Turns Blessing has been so disruptive, and LG has not been able to adapt to it yet.
He is at least ahead of Eonic, but that's about it. Genetics has done quite a bit more than him, as has Faeles. They're going to need a bit more here from Lasbra in the late game, because it's not as if he built utility. There's a damage built from him. That's about all that he provides, as that crush puts a ton of damage onto Eonic.
There's only 2 abilities, Finch, and that's a level 20 Kumbhakarna. Sitting at 60% health or something like that. Yeah, Winged Blade and all the protections on top of it. He has to back to heal up, and Simplicity could try to go for an objective, won't go for the big ES Fire Giant, settles for the baby Pyromancer instead.
Yeah, Kumbhakarna has already, or rather Eonic piloting the Kumbha, has already realized now just how much damage Deathpanter has at his disposal. And this Scylla game from him really has been strong. What I've really liked from them is that their willingness to commit. You could tell when Genetics blinked in for 9 Turns Blessing, Deathpanter's already in that I'm a monster so he can follow up. Even if you beads after you've been taunted, you're still pulled in for that second depending on your timing, and that can be enough of a window for Deathpanter to land that I'm a monster if they're that preemptive with the firing of it.
It's good trust for your teammates to be able to not hesitate off of using your ultimates there. When you make the call, you got to trust your backline, and vice versa. When they make the call, you have to trust that they're going to execute accordingly and not with that ability. So I like the synergy between Genetics and Deathpanter this game, and I also like the fact that Deathpanter has elected to go for the Polynomicon, making it much easier now to siege this last remaining Tier 2 towers and Phoenixes once they do acquire the Fire Giant.
And believe it or not, that Scylla needs it. It does add a good bit of extra kill potential for her, usually on the back of Sycoms that next basic attack that's amped up from the Polyproc can really chunk. So this adds a lot here for Deathpanter. You're exactly right to point this one out. We'll see if we'll get a chance to execute it on this. Lasbra now has the Erendite here in his build. Looks like he's sold off the boots at this point. We'll see if this helps him out.
Interesting to see that pickup on a Susano. Normally you see this item picked up mostly on a Mercury, trying to get that extra mobility, because Lasbra is going to use his abilities and then get out. He generally doesn't even have time to squeeze in a basic attack for the most part, unless you can guarantee pull somebody with that wind siphon, so that would certainly help.
Eonic has become the target, Sycom and Crush all there, and Eonic brought down below half. That is not a bad amount of damage that they're capable of putting out at all. If that's anyone else, they might just be dead.
I was about to make that point. Imagine those two abilities on anyone but Eonic, like Snoopy or Joshy are just dead to rights at that point in the game. So having to back off is Eonic. Joshy going to use that Jing passive to get a little bit closer, but Simplicity are not interested yet in the Fire Giant despite seeing Eonic back.
These are not big enough windows for them to feel comfortable. They don't have a typical hunter here or even anyone except like a mage ADC, so their objective burn can be quite slow. They probably want a more significant advantage. Lasbra way in the back line, but they know where he is. StreakUp goes right to him, and Faeles is there as well. The blink allows him to reposition. Now comes the Typhoon out as well, and Lasbra on full retreat.
Trying to do whatever he can to get out of that one. maniaKK with the World Serpent diving onto Snoopy. That's his second one. The third one will be defensively as Xaliea dashes away into safety. Lasbra last game with the Volcanic Lightning is the reason they won. Genetics, though, he's in and he is deep.
I'm a Monster, though, doesn't find a target. Genetics could be in some trouble as Dazzling Offensive cuts right through. Fear No Evil does peel for Deathpanter, who desperately needs it, but Xaliea makes it back out as well, and now maniaKK is low HP at the front line, and he has no ult. That's a big Sycom, nearly would have killed Eonic.
That Mantle of Discord gave him the CC and
Joshy,
that he needed. Joshy goes back in with the airstrike. The crit gets Faeles out of the equation.
What? How does Joshy turn that one around? He does end up dying in the end. maniaKK comes back in for a 3-man knock-up as well, and Deathpanter just needs to find himself a big crush, but Snoopy's still up. StreakUp ends up falling, but there's the crush to put Lasbra down.
It's a 3-for-2 finish. Deathpanter are making the plays happen. Eonic is still sitting here and he's walking right on top of a ward.
So risky. So risky from him. He does avoid the Sycom and the crush, but still has that Sentinel available, so Deathpanter retreats. We finally have a big battle, but no one got enough from it to feel comfortable getting objectives.
Oh, Xaliea gets baited in route into the crush. Okay, maniaKK here to peel for Deathpanter as well. So much bloodbath between these two teams. I thought for a moment that LG were about to dominate that team fight. Great plays from Joshy. Good survivability from Lasbra before that fight even popped off.
He's the reason that fight started, right? He tried to take that pathing to loop around the bottom of the fight, and I guess he was on a ward. They knew right where he was.
And that was why I was kind of mentioning how Lasbra ended game number 1. His positioning on the Pele, that little flank around in the backside at 62 minutes is what won them the game after such a long struggle. It was an all-in tactic, that pincer maneuver, to create that sandwich where Simplicity kind of was the lettuce and the meat, and LG were the buns instead. But this time around, they're not going to let that strategy work for 2 games in a row.
Still second from the bottom here in player damage from Lasbra. You wouldn't mind this Susano being able to jump up a good bit. Obviously, there's other ways to contribute in fights besides just damage. Susano Lasbra's done nothing, but I have to imagine with the way he's built, he expected more than 10K in 46 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I expect more out of Lasbra. Everyone expects more out of Lasbra at this point. I don't necessarily fault it in the build. I think I fault it in the way he's been disrupted with all the CC. Genetics has shut down Lasbra. Thus, I'm surprised the slash line is only 4-5-5 for this European jungler for LG.
And credit to Deathpanter, man. I think he's the reason this game is still going on right now. This Scylla from him is nasty. Annister pulled this out a couple weeks ago, and You know, I don't know if everyone was believers, but the more I'm seeing it, the more I'm thinking that there might be something to this pick. It is just so much damage.
Oh yeah, he is at the top of the charts right now, right over on top of maniaKK. There's been a lot of kind of pull-ins where LG are all funneling into a corridor, making it a little bit easier for Deathpanter to do his job as a mid-mage, especially when you can throw a root on some of these neutral objectives like the Pyromancer for the AoE root.
Genetics takes some damage from the front line, but that's a relatively tanky Erlang Shen, all things considered. So for the most part, he manages to shrug it off. Fire Giant's throwing some damage out, but this is not a commit from Simplicity, though. I don't know why they would want to take this much free damage.
I think they were trying to clear the ward, and they accidentally aggroed it at the same time. So maniaKK taking about 15 to 20% of his health. Not the healthiest of bunch, but it's LG actually on the retreat, conceding a little bit of positioning.
It is them that's falling back at this point. But they can re-engage here at any time. Lasbra's Blink was available at that last fight and is still available now. I'm wondering if we might see him look to make a play. I think Eonic's Horrific Emblem survived as well. That upgraded relic is a big one if we can find a place to drop that. LG have some tools if they can just find the place to use them.
Even with the Blink for Lasbra, I have to second guess my engage with my Guy's Cloak still down for 25 more seconds. Without that available one root, all of a sudden, I'm in deep trouble there. If anything, like, I'm going to wait for Deathpanter to use his ultimate where I'm not the target if I'm Lasbra.
Exactly.
Because during that ultimate, if you catch it even mid-cast, you can Storm Kata the Scylla down quick enough before the Aegis goes off.
Well, Fire Giant, the EFG, is at half HP, but LG, despite my rhyming, not too into that timing. They choose instead to drop the objective.
I like that one there, Finch. Nothing bad about that one here. Still looking for a little bit of pressure is both of these teams. We had a 62-minute slobber knocker in game number 1, and nothing has changed much in this one, rather. Simplicity still with a little bit of control. And keep in mind, no Phoenixes have been down this entire game. At this point in game number 1, multiple Phoenixes have been kind of back and forth for both teams.
That's right. Simplicity's base a good bit healthier, I might say, than LG's, because Simplicity has a path right to that left lane Phoenix. Meanwhile, FG would have to take down at least one tier 2, and then even when they do get to the Titan, those other tier 2 towers being up means it is healthier. They might be slightly further away from winning this one than Simplicity.
Eonic gonna dash through that Root Crush combination, forces Genetics and Deathpanter to use their escapes, because it's gonna be a full-on engage out to StreakUp.
They're trying to catch him, but he makes it over the wall to the Sand Clone. Meanwhile, Xaliea does get the stun on Genetics, but that's a tankier along Shen, and no damage dealers are in sight. I don't know what LG saw there, but they suddenly decided they were gonna initiate no matter what.
Yeah, they did force a decent amount of abilities out of Genetics. No more relics out of the support or even StreakUp's set there. So that's a good use of aggression, and LG will start up the Fire Giant, baiting out maniaKK, a little bit out of position, actually.
He still has that ultimate, though, so as long as he times it correctly, he'll make it out just like this and get some decent damage. All, of course, to that sole purpose of making sure that LG can't burn that Fire Giant while the rest of Simplicity are backing.
Gonna try for it again, but keep in mind, Deathpanter still has access to the Monster.
No relics for StreakUp, though. He is so much more vulnerable in this fight than he has been in any other fights up till now, but Xaliea gets chunked, man. Only one crush, and he does all that damage.
I mean, I'm not too worried for Xaliea because he can heal that one up, but Eonic can't heal that up in his kit. He's gonna be forced to back on out of there. And that's a little bit of a window there, about 20 seconds for him to come back into this fight. Genetics actually sees the back. He stops the back from Xaliea as well, but they're not interested in trying to go for this objective without the important relics out of StreakUp.
I wonder if it's worth having some Bulwarks start to come out here for LG. I mean, I see one there for maniaKK, and it's come back into the limelight a little bit, this item, Bulwark of Hope. And against a Scylla, I feel like that's the item it's tailor-made, or the god's tailor-made to be used against.
Yeah, you definitely need that extra health shield if you're going to get rooted into a crush there. I absolutely agree with you there, but more kind of value out of the Pestilence in terms of the base value of the protections and the cost effectiveness. But at this late in the game, it's no longer about cost effectiveness. You have all the gold in the world you need. It's all about min-maxing your health and your protections. Bulwark greater than Pestilence in this situation.
Fire Giant being considered here by LG, but this is yet another soft commit. they're not really willing to try and burn this down all out. The fire ring has started up, so it's harder to move in and out here at this point to prevent exactly this. Deathpanter lurking over the wall for Sycam and crushes. It does chunk Eonic, but the Fire Giant has been fully leashed now at this point. Xaliea and Eonic took a bunch of damage for the trouble.
Good separation from Simplicity. They're not overcommitting in the same vein there. Eonic, though, is about to get knocked up and rooted.
And there's the Sycam, there's the crush, there's the damage from Deathpanter, but Eonic lives through it all. But over the top comes Lasbra with I'm a Monster. maniaKK gets kill credit. Eonic somehow still alive even now. maniaKK looks to rectify that, but Deathpanter has crushed Lasbra. In comes Genetics. They're gonna lock down Xaliea as well. The Amaterasu can't survive at all, and Simplicity still holding on here in the 52nd minute.
Snoopy at least answers back in kind in a 1-for-1. Aegis won't make him live in that one, and without StreakUp, the remaining 4 Simplicity members should be able to stretch this to a game number 3.
They absolutely should. They don't have that much damage here onto this Phoenix, but if it's only Eonic to stop them, I don't even know how much that should matter here, Anatoly. What a big fight there from LG to be able to find the knockup from maniaKK onto Eonic.
Absolute barn burner between these two teams here, going the distance in not only game 1 but also game 2.
Yep.
Outstanding performance by Simplicity, keeping their hopes alive still in the upper bracket.
And they would certainly be deserving here of that spot. I'm a Monster committed here. Sycam and crush. Eonic in the passive. This is all just extra Simplicity. Take game number 2 away from LG, and we are going the full distance here in this set.
A little bit of a switch up in the draft from Simplicity with StreakUp going into the set, and it worked out beautifully for them. I like the play from Deathpanter on the Scylla. Aggressive by nature is Genetics, no matter what god he's piloting. This Erlang Shen, very fruitful, despite him being first-blooded before the 20-second mark.
You're right, man. Genetics had a great game here. Deathpanter, too, essentially hard carried, I feel like, man. I mean, that Scylla was everything for this roster, and they had plenty of setup there for it, too. maniaKK towards the end is the one that find that little bit of knockout that they needed to lock down Eonic and remove that tanky gap.
LG need to figure out a way to really stop the momentum from Genetics, because even though they got the first blood, that wasn't even enough to really shut down. It was his blink engagements. There needs to be more awareness from LG around their own red buff. Too many times Genetics got the perfect double taunt engagements.
And I don't know necessarily that these long-term matches necessarily favor here LG. It looks like even when they had windows, they weren't quite sure how to capitalize on them. That's another thing they need to work on. I don't know if that's an in-between game 2 and 3 thing, or if they need a bit more time, but they got to figure out how to capitalize on those windows when they've got the advantage.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because honestly, going into game number 3, both of these teams still have a lot to talk about.
They certainly do. Neither team, I imagine, can be feeling great, but if they can get that game 3 win, all will be forgiven. We'll have that decider match on the other side of this break.
Welcome back, SMITE fans. Hopefully you're all still tuning in and watching, because we've just had 2 games go 2 hours, and we're geared in and ready for the third. Aggro joined by Zeros here on the desk. I mean, Zeros, game 2, it's still the same story. It's Simplicity getting off to a good start. It's LG defending. And then it feels like LG's ready to take control, but they're never able to get on top of Deathpanter Scylla.
Yeah, like he did so much work. Like we talked about that we were kind of worried about the Scylla pick before the game, right? But like top of the player damage this game, I think, and like hit a lot of big combos. And it's kind of weird as well if you look at the other side for LG. I thought like Snoopy and Lasbra was going to pop off this game, but didn't really do too much.
Snoopy in particular had a really, really tough early game, just wasn't able to get anything going. Ultimately turned it around a little bit, but still couldn't get enough damage off in the later stages. StreakUp set ADC just completely ran this early game. Everywhere he went, it felt like Simplicity was winning.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like, because I feel like a comp late game without a hunter, right? Because they have this set instead of a hunter late game, and I feel like it should be hard, right? But it seems like set is just so good when it goes like this full damage build, like that you don't even need a hunter. It's like just putting in so much work.
And really, maniaKK did the same. Genetics was great all game long. I feel like the lack of blink on the Eonic really played a factor here. I mean, we saw a game, I believe it was Out Cold or whoever it was up against Hype Unit SCL, where no blinks on the other side and these carries just get the free cast and free cast and free cast. I mean, when you know the enemy support doesn't have blink, that changes the whole fight for you.
Yeah, it is like it gets so much. That's the worst nightmare as a carry. It's like going up above multiple blink, like 2 or 3 blink. Like sometimes solo, support, and jungle can have blink, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to play against. But if they don't, you're so much like it's. They're not unpredictable when they go on you, right? So it's so much easier to position and put out your damage. And maybe that's why Deathpanter did so much work this game.
He just didn't have to worry about those blinks because Lasbra, one of the only I think the only member of Luminosity that did have a blink, was completely ineffective this game. I mean, he goes full damage on the Susano in the build, not full damage in the stats.
Yeah, he was very like invisible this game, I feel like. Kind of similar to the Rat from Faeles. I guess Faeles did a lot in the early mid game last game, but it came to late game, didn't do as much. Feels kind of similar for Lasbra to Susano. And Susano is a god where I feel like late game he has so much potential to really come in there and one-shot people, but I don't really sure what went wrong.
maniaKK had a huge play there, killing Joshy mid-airstrike. This fight just goes all wrong for Luminosity. And it's really because of maniaKK's ultimate and Lasbra's inability to get the kill on Deathpanter. He tried to go in and 1v1 him and just ended up losing that 1v1. I believe Deathpanter had some help by way of genetics, but either way, Faeles turns it around after a really tough game 1. I think that jungler struggling has kind of been the story so far.
Yeah, for sure. Then Faeles, Batz through his whole career. I think Batz has been one of his top picks, if not his top pick. And you can see that here, like, doing so much work in this game. Like, as we called earlier, early game, pretty like an alt bot to Batz. Late game come into like a hyper carry, and he really filled that role this game.
Except when he's trying to overhand smash the Jing away. You know, that play got us both out of our seats in the green room. That was absolutely nuts. Locked in, ready to go. Game 3. Everyone can take a breath, and we could all collectively hope, I think, that we're going to have a good, solid game that is less than 50 minutes long. Can we all agree on that?
Nah, come on, give us another 1 hour banger here.
Yeah, we just might, man. Neither of these teams seem particularly keen on breaking the base early as we get it started here. Morrigan banned away. That one's for you in the back, Tyler. As Isis, the first ban by Simplicity. And LG being back in that first pick slot is really, really important. I feel like first pick is pretty critical. And I was going to say it might let them get the Jorm for Xaliea, but they decided to ban it away themselves.
Yeah, I think maybe they're looking for set here. The set did a lot of work last game. Maybe it's just time to get Snoopy on the set and show him how it's really done.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We haven't seen Snoopy go for that option yet. Simplicity then banned the Ama, which leaves us in an interesting position. Thor has been banned a lot this week. I don't think he's been banned so much overall in this set. I wonder if Luminosity might go there here for just a good throwaway ban. They do. And now Simplicity has the choice. Excuse me, do you ban Persephone?
I think if I'm Simplicity, I'll probably ban Persephone, or maybe they want to trade Persephone for set. But it's a big risk to take in the last game of a best of 3. If it was 0-0 in the set, then maybe. Okay, sure.
They do it. Luminosity has the option, set or Persephone. What are you grabbing with that second pick? I think this is really important here. If you're taking set or Persephone,
opens.
Now you lock it in for LG. Simplicity most likely going to be going for set here, but what goes along with it? Is it the Erlang Shen for genetics?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But back to the Jing, yeah. Super solid pick. Don't think it was played last game, right?
I think it got banned last game. So that that pick makes sense early
Trial
on.
by
Xingqiang
fire!
Merlin, okay.
He played, one thing to mention though, Simplicity, Genetics did play, they lost the first game against Obey when he played Terra against Persephone, and then he played the second game, he played Xingqiang against Persephone, and it seemed like Xingqiang had a really good matchup. Like not a one-on-one matchup against Persephone, but he could avoid a lot of what Persephone wanted to do to him, so.
Sure, I think that makes sense. Serket locked in, this could be for Lasbra, could be for Eonic. Eonic's played a lot of it in support so far this year. And here you could go set, but this raises the question, if your whole team sort of strategy is, hold on, Xaliea playing King Arthur, I don't know if I've ever seen him play that god.
I'm pretty sure he has played it, but yeah, I agree, that's kind of rare from him. I feel like he's like, as of late, it's been either Jorm or Amaterasu and like nothing else.
Right, they pick his pick really early, almost every game. That's curious. I'm excited to see how he's able to perform on it. If your team is kind of, we pick mages and put Snoopy on them in mid, and then we put him on set ADC if we want to, the chances of Snoopy being your Persephone specialist are pretty high in my mind. That feels like a Snoopy god. So you can't pick Persephone and set and go for that strategy. In my mind, I feel like that's the way the Luminosity is likely constructed right now.
Yeah, sure. Kind of weird to see Simplicity not opting for the set tier either, right? Like,
I agree.
They had a free chance of getting it.
Maybe it's the Serket. The Serket probably shuts it down pretty well.
I guess, yeah, the anti-heal on the ult.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. LG will decide to ban it anyways, just to cover themselves in case StreakUp did want to go for it a little bit later on. Thinking back to StreakUp, I mean, he's played a ton of Merlin ADC. Would not surprise me at all to see him go back to that. Could go with it, or could go to his signature Chronos pick, though we don't see a whole lot of Chronos these days. I feel like Chronos should be pretty decent against Persephone, right? I mean, you get ulted, you get trapped, you just rewind right away.
Exactly, should be really good. And Merlin, Chronos, Merlin, and his Magus made so good with the magical ADCs too, so I think Chronos is a really good pick. Also really safe, Chronos, right? If he gets doled by Serket, like the rewind against Persephone and Serket, like he can get out of a lot of trouble.
Persephone does have good burst damage, but it's not super easy to confirm. It takes a little bit of setup.
Exactly.
I mean, Chronos should be able to get rewinds off, and still the ball in Simplicity's court if that's the way they want to go. Susano picked for Faeles, and he's hoping to do a little bit better than Lasbra did in game number 2. Now we'll see if that Serket is for Lasbra, and it will be. Terra's locked in. And this team fight now for Luminosity looks pretty nasty based on these picks.
Yeah, Jesus, that's a really good. And I have to go back to the Serket for Lasbra. We know these Danish junglers. If there's any junglers that can play Serket at a high level, it's Fred and Lasbra. So
they love it, man. They absolutely love it. And I love this Hou pick alongside the Terra. You want to talk about getting everyone those Earth and Fury stones and then popping them all quickly. Hou ultimate can do that. You group everybody up with that Persephone ult, let Hou rain down the suns. Luminosity, if these games have gotten late, and these games are all about the 5-on-5s, I think Luminosity came away with the better 5-on-5 draft.
Sure. This Poseidon pick is actually really good. The cripple here is really good against Serket, King Arthur, and Terra. All of them 3 gods.
And Hou and Persephone.
Yeah, if they get him. I think they have time to get out of it before it really takes effect. But yeah, sure. This Poseidon pick is actually really good. They don't have a demonic grip now, so they don't have the same kind of shred on the tanks that you would if they went like a Chronos or something. But I think it's good enough.
I think it could be solid as well, and you want to think about good follow-up to Xingqiang ultimates. How about a Merlin Blizzard into a Poseidon Whirlpool Kraken? I mean, that'll kill anybody. And we saw Eonic have trouble up against this magical damage from Deathpanter last game. Feel like it could be the same here, but it is a little bit easier because Merlin and Poseidon, both being big magical damage dealers, makes it a little bit easier for Eonic and for Xaliea to stack that magic D.
Yeah, sure. Then again, Terra immune to knockups, right? So like, it's gonna be hard for Xingqiang to set up. She can't really ult him. The knockup is hard to confirm as well. So kind of safe on the Terra, but yeah, could also get punished.
That's a good point. I think the Terra matchup is one that we just saw when Neil Ma was playing that pick for SK Gaming. Couldn't pick up Rongyu very often. I think that's an interesting one. If I'm Serket here, if I'm Lasbra, I'm looking at an early on Xiliea. Great item against Xingqiang because he goes for the knock-up on you, and your root gets canceled out by the silence. You want a little bit of magic defense here against Xingqiang, Merlin, and Poseidon. I wouldn't be surprised to see a runic shield early here for Xaliea. I mean, the only concern I have with Simplicity's comp is that both their main damage dealers are magical.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of magical defense coming out for LG for sure. But then again, they're gonna have a lot of shred. There's gonna be a Void Stone on Xingtian, I'm pretty sure. And I'm gonna have the Spear of Magus, and obviously everyone's gonna have Obsidian Shard. So I don't think they're gonna have to worry too much. Maybe in the early game, say if the tanks of LG get like a Heart Ward early or like goes magical defense early, they're gonna struggle a little bit. But as soon as they get the pen online, I think they'll be fine.
Persephone, a god that everyone's looking at, and especially now, Game 3, do or die for the winner's side. Luminosity, Simplicity. John Finch and Anatoly, you ready for 55 more minutes?
You know that I am, Aggro. Let's gear up for this Game 3 between LG and Simplicity. As Aggro put it, this moves you on to that final match on the winner's side to guarantee your spot at High Res Expo. I can't imagine that there's anything that would be quite as relieving here for these teams as if they could make that happen. And they put that Persephone, the first pick Persephone, in game number 3 into Snoopy's hands.
Would it go anywhere else, Finch,
I couldn't
besides the
imagine.
veteran Snoopy, Joshy piloting the Ho Yi, not the Snoopy Ho Yi, or sorry, not the Met Yankee Ho Yi that Hindu Man has put it so lightly there, as Deathpanter now piloting the Poseidon, sees exactly where Eonic is positioning, was looking for the wraparound to contest the speed buff, but we'll settle for a little bit of poke on Deathpanter instead. A lot of pressure, I think, on the hands of Lasbra and Faeles this game.
Yeah, at this point, it's very unlikely that Eonic able to make it in there to contest this speed. In fact, much more likely this gets collapsed on. Does find a two-man stun as Faeles blinks to it to push him back out. But at this point, yeah, Eonic really not going to be able to contest the speed. He blinks back in, and it's so dead set on trying to make this happen, but Eonic can't get there.
Season 6 meta at its finest with the support. Just looking for any bit of poke that you can. At 0 experience per minute there compared to the 84 out of Faeles. Still guaranteed his own speed buff. Should regroup with Deathpanter to maybe go for the red buff after clearing this wave. Whereas already Snoopy clears out his wave going for his own red buff. Simplicity though invading the purple.
They make it in there and strip that one away from Joshy, who can't quite get over to help out. That's Genetics there looking for guaranteed farm to strip away, as opposed to Eonic trying to hinder the opposition's jungler. And Snoopy might not even be able to confirm this red. I don't know that he did.
No, it's a feels bad moment there if you're Snoopy. That buff is grayed out. Goes the way of the Chaos side there, so no experience, no gold, and no power buff now for Snoopy.
Make life harder here as Eonic gets stuck inside the whirlpool. Deathpanter finds first blood in favor of Simplicity. Though you wouldn't want to get too excited, as we all know, none of this matters until the 55 minute.
It really doesn't, right? Like, Genetics died in, what, 17 seconds in game number 2?
Yeah.
And then he finds kill number 2 of the game. Assists in like 3 more kills in the next 5 to 10 minutes with his aggressive Erlang, Shen, and Eonic playing this Terra with Blink. Even at level 1, will still look to play aggressive despite being first blooded, same way Genetics was in game 2.
As Eonic should look to continue to playing aggressive. No more with the Warriors or Assassins support, both back to Guardians. Though that's true in name only, Xing Chen plays a lot like a Warrior anyway, and Eonic will be active on this Terra as yet again Joshy's forced to play defensively, thanks to Genetics showing his face here. One more thing to consider, though, is that Faeles did have to use beads in their last engagement. I wonder if there's a chance that LG might look for some lockdown this next 100 seconds.
It's a big cooldown there to try to exploit, but without any real ultimates yet, I'm not super worried for Faeles there, but with Joshy playing this Ho Yi now no longer on the Xingwei, as that was banned away from Simplicity in the secondary round, really adjusting to the playstyle out of LG. You wouldn't normally expect this kind of ban in Season 6 with the likes of so many high-caliber gods in the meta, but instead it's more about figuring out your opponent's playstyle and making them less comfortable in the most crucial final game of the best-of-3 set.
Joshy been playing that Xingwei crit build very, very well, so I don't blame them for making him adjust. But to me, he's not the headline. It's really not even Snoopy on this Persephone. To me, it's that Lasbra vanished in game number 2 when the world needed him most. I just accidentally did the last Avatar, or the last Airbender just now. It wasn't intentional. But Lasbra is such a big player here for LG, and they didn't really get much from him at all. They need this Serket to be impactful.
It's definitely more of how Simplicity disrupted Lasbra than Lasbra being dormant by his own accord.
Sure.
I think if he just repositions better in the mid-game team fights around the goal theories, then he doesn't have to worry about being less than 8th on the player damage charts the way he was. I believe he was 9th for a majority of that last game, but playing now on the Serket, I believe this is his most comfortable jungle pick out there.
This is something that Lasbra really does like to play. He'll be going right to that Warrior Tabi right away and does have the Assassin's Blessing as well. And the Blink. No beads from Lasbra here this time. So he is looking to try and make plays, to try and set the pace on this Serpent pick. Especially because Faeles going to need a little bit more time before that Susano's really ready to start rolling.
Suffering a little bit in the experience per minute category as opposed to Faeles. Not going to have that level 5 at the same pacing with Faeles having access to Typhoon. Could look for something in the mid lane here. Genetics with the Blink there. A double Blink engage there between Genetics. Could be the play.
Well, here's that first Blink, but a response Blink coming out from Eonic. He drops the root there as well, but he's suddenly stuck in no man's land. Lasbra the only one coming to help. They do a turnaround Kraken to grab him. There's the grasp of death from Snoopy as well, and that does have Deathpanter locked down, but no one can get into range. So many abilities used for no one to die.
Yeah, Lasbra walks away cleanly from that one. Surprised that Deathpanter's Kraken was completely off the mark there, as Lasbra was narrowly able to blink away from combat there. I like the attempt from Simplicity, but they just have to be a little bit more accurate. And with that window gone from Faeles, Lasbra can turn around and look for a play once he hits level 5.
That's exactly right. Once he ticks over, he'll have that last breath available and can look to make a big play. But it's so interesting how much that fight has been reminiscent of the entire set, where both of these teams look for an engage, but both of them are so good at reacting to what the other's doing and repositioning that no one ends up losing a whole lot. Lasbra and Xaliea, though, might not get to keep saying that with 3 members of Simplicity here and right.
Trying to see what they can do about this blue buff. Was quickly secured out of Faeles. Lasbra can't do anything about that one. Still trying to hit level 5 with those back camps. Up and down goes maniaKK, limiting the healing out of Xaliea. No healing from this Guardian's item.
But he will be able to take maniaKK up to the sky. Eonic waiting for a root but can't find it. And now they're the ones with turnaround potential if this wall stun can connect, but Eonic can't get it. And maniaKK makes it out pretty easily. In fact, now Faeles going to head to steal blue.
A nice attempt by maniaKK, limiting the effectiveness out of that Gladiator shield, but a good turnaround play as Xaliea bought a lot of time with that Excalibur's Raft. Really unfortunate that Eonic was just narrowly off the mark there, but still a good comfortable lead, I would say, because Genetics is level 5, Eonic still sitting at level 4, but you have to remember the Terra's passive. She's immune to knockups when the Monolith is boosted.
Makes her pretty strong into the Xing Chen matchup, probably part of the reason why she was selected here. And this Xing Chen picked up by Simplicity when that set could have still been an option, I believe, and instead they let this one go here this game. StreakUp had such a strong performance on it 2 games in a row, I would have said in that set, but they don't value it here in this matchup. Instead, getting him on this Merlin and looking to make plays elsewhere.
A lot of flexibility with Simplicity to avoid that. They feel comfortable switching things up with the Merlin. It's a great amount of control between StreakUp and Deathpanter, but these double backline mage dealers leaves more pressure on the frontline physical side of things for Faeles and maniaKK. If Faeles doesn't build full glass cannon, then LG can really itemize defensively, more front-loaded on the magical side instead.
Likely be what they're looking to do, as Oracle's split Totem of Ku has largely been in favor of LG here so far this game. No big surprise with Xaliea on that King Arthur. He lines up across from the Osiris of maniaKK. These solo laners both have had big impacts in these last 2 games, though I do think maniaKK's been able to do a little bit more on that Jormungandr, but not available this time. Banned out by LG to try and mitigate his impact.
As they should, honestly. The Jormungandr is too effective at this point. Xaliea, though, getting heavily bullied. This is something maniaKK has been doing since Season 1 up against Omega. This Osiris matchup, and just slapping each other silly.
You're exactly right, man. maniaKK has plenty of experience on this god, so you know that he's comfortable here in this matchup. Red buff will be defended here by LG this time. I bring that up because Simplicity have done a good job stripping buffs and the like away from LG here so far, but that's not the case. LG controlling their own side of the map, though they are still down about 1,500 or so gold.
A little bit of that is not negated by the Totem of Ku. They do control that one. The first blood bounty did go the way of Simplicity, but more about these neutral camps for the most part. Lasbra continuously invades those back right camps, but yet again, he's not getting his own more guaranteed farm.
Genetics blinks over the wall. He, at the very least, is able to find Eonic bring them back towards the squad, but they don't even pull the trigger on that one. They didn't get what they wanted. At the very least, Eonic responds by dropping his own ultimate, so those get traded.
Pantera's Blessing, a longer cooldown than the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, so a slight benefit for Genetics to trade that ulti. 1 for 1. Still nothing to really get, though, with that ultimate being down. Just going to be a hard reset. Remember, game number 2, last one. Hold that thought, though, on the left side.
Joshy looking to be aggressive, but there's 3 members of Simplicity. Faeles gets the second kill of the game as they put Joshy into the dirt. There's the Kraken from Deathpanter and Snoopy as well, but the grasp of death a bit too strong, and Deathpanter goes to join Joshy.
He uses Purification Beads a little bit earlier on, so good accuracy from Snoopy exploiting the defenseless Poseidon this early on. Great play from Snoopy. Good follow-up there coming through from Eonic that survives the initial engage and then makes another offensive play.
I want to point out Lasbra, level 7 here. The entirety of this set, he has been about 2 levels behind Faeles, and it happening this often is making me wonder if that's something intentional from LG. If maybe he's giving some farm back to Snoopy, not taking some of this mid-wave. I'm surprised he keeps ending up being this far behind.
Could be the case, actually, but Circuit, when behind, is not as bad as certain other assassin junglers, so I don't necessarily mind it too much here, as he is level 7 versus the level 9 from Faeles' Susano, but it could be a point of concern, considering that he's not building into damage. He's going for probably the Ankylae, focusing on diving Deathpanter.
It ends up being the Runic Shield, but certainly on Xaliea, a good thought there is.
Not bad. I like this item too.
Yeah, certainly fine here for Lasbra too. Both of them are pretty strong in terms of getting that silence effect out or reducing the power.
Yeah, another reason why I thought it might have been Ankylae is because when Genetics uses that knockup into the root, as soon as you get hit by the knockup, you take a source of damage, which instantly silences out the secondary root portion, so you don't have to worry about getting CC'd there.
And certainly is strong if he's looking to dive StreakUp, maybe thinking of looking for something else than near this game, but it's also just going to be strong to build magic defense here. Both the carries from Simplicity are magic damage, and Genetics going to be doing some relevant magic damage of his own. It's mostly maniaKK and Faeles are going to make you thinking about building physical defense. But still, it looks like the Gauntlet Thieves rush right away for Eonic.
I mean, it's still a good... Like, I don't see more physical defense outside of the Gauntlet Thieves being necessary in this game. A little bit of trouble, though, on some maniaKK, but he has Faeles to back him up.
He's already been locked down, but a good pull from Faeles knocks up Xaliea, Lord of the Afterlife, for the dunk, and that's the 3rd one now here for Simplicity. Genetics has grabbed onto Snoopy, but he's alone here. I doubt he's looking for much more than that.
Not much for this level 9 support Shen to do to get that solo kill onto Snoopy that can heal from his own plants there. Good use of that mechanic. So yet again, another clean pick for Simplicity in all-important game number 3.
That was good over there to find a good gank onto Xaliea on this King Arthur. He even has those reinforced Greaves here at this point, so he's going a somewhat tankier path, and they were still able to keep that CC chain going to lock him down as Joshy shows he's got the ricochets lined up. It definitely hurts that Xaliea takes that spill.
It definitely does, considering that it was under LG's own tower. It's not as though LG overextended under Simplicity's tower. They were in the right to make that play, but man, isn't Osiris tanky at this point? It doesn't even matter that he doesn't have that much health in his build without Breastplate of Valor or even Hide Anemia line. It's all about the passive. 16% physical mitigation, 8% magical once he has all 8 stacks of his passive.
Not bad at all. Really, everyone on Simplicity starting to show up. Genetics has had such a strong set here in the entirety of it. Faeles is looking really good this game on the Susano 2-0-1, active early. I think Simplicity don't want to give LG another chance to stall this game out. They have been looking for every play they can find.
And so far, Genetics still looking for more. Blink not up for 25 seconds. Ultimate coming up, probably around the same timing. Still trying to stack up the Gauntlet of Thieves. He's not sharing any of these waves, so he's more concerned about how he can make an impact in these team fights.
Yeah, look how these magic damage dealers for Simplicity are building those, Holy. Spear the Magus first item after Boots or StreakUp, and working on another pen option. It looks like they're predicting there's going to be some stacking of magical defense on LG, and they're ready to burst through.
Yeah, normally it's only one magical damage dealer that picks up Spirit the Magus, but when it's 2, you can go for objectives that quickly.
Simplicity stripped the gold free away and right in LG's face. Really not much they can do in their zone that effectively by Genetics, and you're probably not going to beat the Confirm or the Kraken there anyway. Suddenly, we're nearly 4,000 gold in control here for Simplicity. Starting to get some shades in game one.
Yeah, this first Gold Fury goes down 10 minutes faster than the previous game here. You can tell how comfortable Simplicity is with their windows of opportunity. These magical damage dealers hit their stride with this penetration items.
Well, LG, though, starting to get frustrated, looking to force a play here on the right-hand side. The King Arthur has Maniac locked down, but it's not enough damage. And in come the rest, but the grasp of death finds no one.
Xaliea looking for a disengage here, less than half health. Eonic Lasbra as well, probably biting off a little more than they can chew. And I don't hate this call from LG to be aggressive, knowing that the Kraken was used for that Gold Fury.
Not at all. They were trying to see if they could find something on the back end of it, but now they're the ones in the retreat path as Genetics jumps in. This might even be a Pyromancer for Simplicity. They turn that weakness into strength by responding to the aggression, and then when LG had to back out, they take an objective.
Genetics basically identifies, all right, well, LG disengaged this far away. All right, boys, let's get 500 gold real quick on that Pyromancer, even forcing Joshy to dive bomb away safely. Middle tier 1 tower out of Simplicity, about half health, still rather healthy. You're not expecting LG to force down this tower anytime soon. If I'm LG, I got to figure out, like, all right, like, how do we break this wall from Simplicity? Like, this Osiris is difficult to lock down. Faeles will be rather squishy, but with Genetics in our face as well, it almost feels like Deathpanter and StreakUp is the long-range artillery that just goes uncontested.
They're going to be hard for LG to try and counter, but I think LG have a really solid team fight lined up for them once they start to be able to group up around Eonic and that Terra's Blessing ultimate once he starts to drop it. The Suns on top of Snoopy's Grasp of Death and everyone that's trapped inside that. They could potentially have a really nice team fight, whereas Simplicity have done a good job isolating targets and picking them off.
A little bit of different options for these solo laners, not just the boots, but also the defensive options. Xaliea opting for the Void Shield, trying to get more penetration for Lasbra, for Joshy once they do commit, whereas maniaKK going for more anti-healing with this Contagion, still stacking up the physical defense. Not too concerned about the magical side.
Yeah, I like the way the Simplicity are building here this game. You're right, they're going to need that Contagion to deal with this healing from Eonic. That could be team-wide during the ultimate. They're doubling up on this pen, getting the Divine Ruin earlier for more pin and to shut down the healing. They are not going to make this easy for LG to close out this set at all.
Definitely not. Even Doom Orbs completed for both Snoopy and Deathpanter. A lot of damage on their side as they're trying to get to their mid-game, sitting at level 13 and 14 respectively between these two. maniaKK, though, will Judgment Tether Lasbra, forcing the last breath.
That's not bad from him. They get the root as well, so he has to use the Death Bane. Whirlpool comes in for the cripple to buy him some time, but Xaliea finds a two-man stun to get him out.
Oh, but Snoopy on the left side catches out Faeles there. The beast was 2 seconds away from being off cooldown. The cripple a little too strong.
It looks like he blinked there as well and still got hunted down by the Grasp of Death. So not bad from LG to be able to get that kill, and they needed that. Faeles was starting to really pull away from Lasbra in terms of experience that game, or this just then at that point in the game, so good lockdown to try and give Lasbra some time.
Yeah, it's going to be important to figure out ways to mitigate some of that healing. So it's not only the Contagion here, but it's also probably going to be the upgraded Thorns coming soon from maniaKK. That 50% anti-healing is going to limit some of Joshy's healing if he does elect to pick up maybe the Aussie, maybe the Bloodforge later down the road. Xaliea with a Gladiator Shield is going to be a little bit of a nuisance, so I don't hate the pickup of the Thorns. It also potentially stops Joshy from picking up the critical strike, as you know he likes to do on the Jing way, but I think that's more of a Jing way special, trying to synergize with the explosive bolt. I like to see more attack speed on Ho-Yi's to really amplify the burst damage you're getting from that Mark of the Golden Crow. The more health you're missing, once you are marked, the more damage you're taking.
Exactly right. That attack speed lets you start to stack that up relatively quickly. No Curse Ankh here this time, though. That's become something that we've seen a little bit more from these solo laners as their relic, but at this point, there's no more slot. It was a frenzy for Genetics in the last available team-wide slot, and that just makes a ton of sense to me. Frenzy's become almost ubiquitous for these supports nowadays, so you gotta pick it up.
The penetration and the attack speed is an objective melter.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to get that one because it covers both the PvE category to try to sneak some of those with like a 5-second window or something like that, or for the PvP if you're just looking to siege down some of these Phoenixes that become much harder to siege down in Season 6.
It's become versatile, man. It can fit for your team in a team fight just to amplify your damage, or it can accelerate your burst around those objectives too. So I think they've recognized that what this relic allows you to do is too valuable to pass up, as we now are in the 18-minute threshold, almost to 19. And Eonic warding around this Gold Fury. Maybe LG are considering a play. They've got all 5 members rotating over here to this objective.
A very important Primal Fury this early on. You want to get the 7% damage amplification towards the difficult Fire Giant, but Simplicity not going to give this up for free. Poking his head is Genetics.
All 5 members of Simplicity are nearby. Relics available for everyone at this point too, so safety not necessarily guaranteed. As Simplicity already under siege, Eonic blinks in and does drop the Earth and Fury. The Sunbreaker doesn't find a lot. The Grasp of Death does not lock down Genetics either, and Eonic ends up getting punished first.
Snoopy gets stunned out by that Judgment Tether despite getting taken into the sky, gets cleaned up, but then still answered back in kind, still in the passive.
Wow. This is a full-on wipe here for Simplicity. It's just Lasbra left way in the background of the fight. Not much that he can do. Snoopy tries to get some damage from that passive form, but Primal Fury belongs to Simplicity, and Lasbra better not come in at this point. He is on the wrong side of the map.
It looked good at first because Eonic hit 3 enemies there with his ultimate. It applies a little bit of a debuff to mitigate some damage that they're about to deal back in return, but everyone else from LG was getting zoned away by maniaKK there. He finds an early kill onto onto Snoopy there, and there was not much that they can do without that AoE magical damage.
And now they're chasing down Lasbra. I don't know if he recognized just about how much trouble he was in. He still has Blink, so if he can get out of combat for a bit, he should be safe. But Simplicity no longer playing things slow, starting up the Fire Giant. LG not going to get a 50-minute slugfest this time.
Fire Giant goes down faster than the Gold Fury did in the previous game here. Eonic gets stunned mid-dash, whirlpools in place, even using that Lord of the Afterlife. maniaKK is absolutely done with this set.
He absolutely is, man. He wants to grab this game now if they can. They're trying to push down the tier 2 as well. Simplicity, the SML EU #1 representative, trying to take it here to LG. The 7th seed, I want to say overall, or maybe they were 8th. Either way, this is a strong team that should be favored, but they can't quite handle it. Simplicity moving all the way into the Phoenix, though Genetics takes a little bit too much damage.
Fighting way more than he can chew. Faeles going to take a tumble as well, but at least answering back with Lasbra. Xaliea gets taken out, but more importantly, the middle Phoenix still standing strong. maniaKK definitely wishing he had his ultimate here.
But he doesn't have any backup here this time. Buys himself some time. The wall stun will be enough, but StreakUp comes in and burns Snoopy. You know, flowers don't like that much sunlight, and Snoopy wants to come up and try and punish it some way. He's able to get the Bone Rush, the slow there too, but at this point, StreakUp should be out. Simplicity go on a run.
Yeah, a little bit too ambitious trying to go for that Phoenix. There's 4 more towers on the minimap to acquire, but diving beyond that Phoenix, Genetics couldn't reset the aggro fast enough. It's only 21 minutes into the game. He's not full build. That Phoenix melting his health bar a little bit too quickly. That's how you can tell. The 62-minute game #1, the 52-minute game #2 is starting to get into the heads of Simplicity. They don't want to go that long.
Well, I don't think they wanted to in any of these games. It's been LG basically forcing it with their pace of play, and this time Simplicity not going to allow them into that comfort zone. Willing to take a few more risks here in game #3, willing to try and force the issue when they know that they have the advantage. I like this change of pace that we're seeing from them.
I don't hate it either. I just got to make sure that, or at least they need to understand that they can't do this again the next time around. They got a little bit rambunctious with their 10,000 gold lead, and you need to kind of flex a little bit on your opposition when you do have that lead. But now they are getting the cleaner objectives. The tier 1 in the solo lane looking for the tier 2, and I would like to see them transition this into the long lane, not going for the Phoenix after the fact.
Well, they still have Fire Giant on the most important members, I'd say, Deathpanter and StreakUp. both will be enjoying those benefits for another minute and 20 seconds if they want to push. It looks like LG, even down 10K, have decided this could be the best fight they'll get. They will be here to try and defend on the tier 2, at least a couple members to show face.
Looking for something there on the backside is maniaKK wrapping around, spots out Lasbra. There is 2 wards to see that Faeles. Also looking for the Frosty Axe special.
And brings it over the wall. Joshy's already down quite low. Good grasp of death comes out, but maniaKK keeps up the pressure and is able to remove Joshy from the equation. Xaliea, though, doesn't want to feel lonely, goes back to the fountain to join him. That just leaves 3 members up for LG, though they do get Faeles in trade.
Eonic was so dangerously close to falling alongside his comrades there. So with his life still intact, can defend the Phoenix. I think if Simplicity get that 3rd victim, they might have attempted to go for that objective, but guaranteeing another 1,500 gold with that tier 2 tower, going to be able to spend a lot of their gold in hand and look for some objectives on the left side of the map, unless they want to reset for the Fire Giant that's spawning in 80 seconds.
Simplicity might decide finally to let up on this pressure here a little bit and then just set up to be in position for this Fire Giant. They've already gotten 2 rows of the tier 2 towers down, which means they could head right to the Phoenix and mid and right. But you're right, the tier 2 towers on the left and the tier 1 do still raise some concerns. You don't want that Titan to be too tanky.
Definitely not. You gotta cross your T's and dot your I's there, especially after the failure, after that middle Phoenix. Looking for a little bit of warding vision is maniaKK. Fury respawning in 5 seconds, so a bit of a window to get an objective on the left side and then shift your attention over to the right. And if I'm LG, honestly, with this deficit, I don't see how I team fight in the jungle with this deficit. It's more important to just hold on to your Phoenixes at this point. If you lose any lives in the jungle side, losing basically your Phoenixes anyway.
It'd be making things a little bit too easy for Simplicity in that case. So LG are going to step up and grab some risky farm here when they have an idea of where Simplicity are, and then try and head back to the base. Eonic has to be careful, but they have not spotted him out just yet, so he's fine too. See, they come and grab the tier 1 over here on right. A little bit extra, every bit that LG can get, because they've been here before down 5 digits worth of gold and still been able to bounce back. Maybe they can get that done here one more time.
Feels to be the theme of the placement matches,
yeah,
where one team is down 5-digit plus, but still hold on for dear life, as LG was able to do in game number 1, dragging it to 62 minutes, and Simplicity with a very comfortable 12,000 gold lead, looking for their 2nd Fire Giant of game number 3.
And kind of to Zero's point, if you were worried, would Simplicity be able to get their magic damage to hit home? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. And Spear the Magus, Divine Ruin, and Ob Shard for StreakUp, plus the Ethereal Staff and Soul Reaver, Spear the Magus and Ob Shard, Soul Reaver for Deathpanter. I don't know how worried they are about Xaliea and Eonic building magic defense like the Genjis and the Onis. They should be able to cut right through them.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. That is too much penetration, even for those defense items. And Joshy's back gets canceled by the Archers. Deathpanter going to utilize the Poseidon movement speed, trying to catch up. Joshy using that ultimate just for the slow. Not enough to save his life.
That's such an unfortunate mistake there from Joshy. He ends up being punished for going aggressive on the left-hand side, and they needed him. They need that Sunbreaker ultimate, his damage, to try and deter this push. Simplicity now should be able to just take this left side of the map and then pick which Phoenix they want to go for.
That was a very uncharacteristic, silly mistake by Joshy to cancel his back by basically AI at that point in the game. Like, I like the idea of getting the tier 2 tower. That was well calculated, and I'm sure if his back was not canceled, he would have been back before he got disrupted by anyone from Simplicity. But you got to be able to calculate beyond just that PvP side. You got to worry about the actual minions in the lane as well.
Unfortunately, definitely. Now Simplicity, 5-member strong, will grab the last tower remaining on the order side of the map, meaning LG have to fall back fully to Phoenix defense mode. They have this Persephone here who can get her plant set up, can feel pretty strong when she's defending on these Phoenixes. They still have Eonic's ultimate, which can be a nice tide changer as well. But Simplicity, with the way they've played, as long as they continue to execute, they should be favored.
Deathpanter no ultimate for a little bit longer. Genetic's taking about 30% of his health as Joshy walks away from maniaKK, doing a good job zoning his Deathpanter. Gets stunned down middle, Phoenix down about 50% health. LG still holding on.
Remember, no physical hunter here for Simplicity, even a magical one. So their Phoenix damage, their structure damage is going to be a bit lacking. The Poseidon pretty close to being up there as one of those main ADCs, so can certainly still do good damage.
Yeah, no use of the Polynomicon the same way we saw from Deathpanter Scylla in the previous game, and honestly, that's probably the best character outside of Cuckoo that you would want that item on. Don't necessarily see Deathpanter picking it up or StreakUp on the Merlin this time around, so it will be a slow and steady grind out session from Simplicity.
Seeing if they can find some cracks in Luminosity's base defense at this point. I imagine it'll be a Shaman's Ring for Deathpanter next time. Well, we won't have much more time to talk. Simplicity are ready to move right into the Phoenix. maniaK's the one tanking it, and the Phoenix still relatively healthy. Sunbreaker forces everybody back, but Kraken sets up a double kill for Deathpanter as Lasbra and Joshy have both been removed from the map. That's mid-Phoenix for Simplicity, and SML now on the brink of taking down LG.
And with their Fire Giant buff for still another minute, they are not interested in ending the game quite yet. Not confident enough. They need a little bit more. They need the left side Phoenix going down. They might even need another pick or two.
And maniaK's gonna go aggressive. Genetics right there to follow up with a two-man knockup. Wall stun does not come through. The Whirlpool's there, and Eonic is no longer the land of the living. They don't have Xaliea anymore either. He has to move all the way back to the fountain. It's just the King Arthur. But Simplicity, they want to take this game. They want to move on to the winners finals at the top of the bracket. SML saying hello.
The minor league yet again toppling over another SPL team.
Wow.
Simplicity will now face off against SK Gaming in the upper bracket finals. Winner of that one qualifies to the High Res Expo.
And what a match that's going to be. SK has looked formidable this week, but so has Simplicity. LG are no slouches. Not just that, I thought they were the second best team here in this pool, but they can't find a way to conquer this Simplicity roster. So Simplicity are by far right now one of those teams you have to be on the lookout. What a big matchup for them. But remember, LG are not out of it. They're going to drop down to that lower bracket.
They are going to try to face off against Sanguine and company as well. Still waiting on Hype Unit console team to see how they do.
That's right.
So day 3 basically in the books, and this last set was definitely a slobber knocker or a barn burner, whatever you want to call it. Both of these teams really bringing the business.
Well, thankfully at this point you can call it over. As much as we love some good Smite, this one went a bit long here. It's not LG though, it's Simplicity, the SML EU representative that comes out on top, still remaining in the winner's bracket. Remember, they're only one best of 5 away from auto-qualifying to Worlds here at this point. You could not have written it any better than this. But Anatoly and I have talked plenty for you all over these last, 3 hours at this point. Let's get it back over to the desk and let them break it down.
Thank you, Finch and Tolley. Congratulations on getting through it, man. I thought we were in for another 55-minute, but ultimately it is Simplicity who win this game 3 in 20-some short minutes, it feels like, in comparison. Aggro joined by Zeros here on the desk. Zeros, for me, let me know if you agree, Lasbra was invisible from 10 minutes into game 2 into the very end of this game. I mean, there were a lot of fights I just feel like he didn't contribute.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing about this game, why this game looked the way it did, was like Faeles had huge impact, Lasbra, as you said, pretty much invisible. Like, just take it back to that Gold Fury fight, for example. They have a huge fight, Lasbra's just at the enemy red buff the whole fight. He leaves the fight with full health, ult still up, hasn't done a single thing in that fight, so yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. Just look at the player damage as well, 5,000 coming out of the Suket jungle.
And credit due to Simplicity, I think, because I really do feel like that Poseidon pick, the very last, 10th pick Poseidon for Deathpanter, changed the entire course of this game and the way that Lasbra was going to be able to execute. The threat of that Whirlpool makes it so scary to engage.
Yeah, for sure. So good against it, you see here, so good against the Terra as well. Like, she gets stuck in the Whirlpool, there's very little she can do. She can't use her dash. What does she really do, you know? So, yeah, such a almost genius Poseidon pick, I'd say.
But Deathpanter, all set long, all year for this Simplicity team, it's been, yeah, Genetics and Faeles and maniaKK are hard carrying, StreakUp too, and Deathpanter's there as the role guy. He stepped up today, man. He felt like a true hard carry for this team.
Yeah, especially this Scylla game, the game previous to this, like, insane performance by him. Did good in this Poseidon game as well. Felt like he didn't need to do as much in this game because, like, the lack of impact that Lasbra had on the enemy team. But yeah, still great performance from him.
Simplicity move on to the winners finals. They'll be taking on SK Gaming tomorrow, and if they win that, then they're going to the World Championship. A crazy ride for this minor league team who came in with high expectations, clearly well-deserved. But Luminosity, I feel like game 1, they played really well, were able to stay in a game that who knows how long
Yeah.
they had been staying in. Games 2 and 3, I just feel like they didn't deliver as much as I expected.
Yeah, I agree. Was still pretty close to this set, I must say. These two
Yeah.
teams so evenly matched, in my opinion. Even though the Simplicity come out with the winner, I felt like such an evenly matched matchup.
It really does come down to just a razor's edge here in game number 3, and Faeles outperforming Lasbra feels like the differentiator. Genetics has the set that you'd expect from a guy with as much hype around him. The King Arthur for Xaliea, I can't even tell you if it did a whole lot of work. I feel like he never got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it did fine. Laning phase looked good for him. Like, it was like equal pressure. He's pretty happy. Equal pressure, I think, coming out. But then again, like, Lasbra comes over, level 6 Cat trying to gank a level 11 Osiris or whatever it is. It's just, yeah, as I said, I don't know what happened for Lasbra. Maybe it got shut down early game or something, but like, yeah, just not enough this game.
I feel like the farming was an issue. Finch was talking about it on the cast, how he was consistently a level or 2 down up against Faeles. He was saying that maybe it's because that's how Luminosity was playing. I feel like that's a pretty generous statement there from Finch. I think that was not Lasbra's best day for sure, but it was a pretty good day for Simplicity. They get the win. They move on to winners finals. We've got a couple Simplicity members standing by for the interview right now.
Zeros, congratulations, Simplicity. Both Faeles and Deathpanter moving on to face against SK in the upper bracket finals. Faeles, question to you. After a 62-minute game 1 and a 52-minute game number 2, what was it about LG in this set that made it so long for you guys to find the wins?
I think we just struggled to kill them late game. Like, we couldn't really get good engages, myself especially, on the Ratatoska. But we just had to slug it out and, you know, switch it up for game 3 and get the win.
Well, really throughout this set, Faeles, I mean, I don't know another way to say it, but it felt like you were just the better jungler here. Was there anything particular that you were doing? Deathpanter did say maybe you're taking some of his farm. Was that part of it? What was going on that you think was working so well for you this set?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Panther was even or ahead every game as well. I mean, the first game I saw like 4 speeds and 4 back camps, and then every other I just outfarmed him, so.
Deathpanter, any words to defend yourself there from the farming?
I mean, it's either he's 3 levels ahead or both 1 level ahead. He's still seeing my farm, like.
Worth.
You know.
Fair enough. But I got to ask you guys, both of you guys, about maniaK's performance as well. Because game number 3 on the Osiris, it looked back to his like season 1 days playing the Osiris and all that aggressiveness.
Yeah, it's actually, there's like in solo lane now it's kind of weird because the topics are like Amaterasu, Arthur, Jorm, and after that it kind of falls off very hard. So especially that he plays that well on the non-topic, it's very impressive.
Can we talk about him trolling first game as Arthur as well, please? Because if we're going to reward him for playing well, can we like destroy him for playing bad?
This is your floor now. Anything you want to say about maniaK? Go ahead.
He's okay.
He's okay. This is the last question here for you guys. They'll get you out of here. I know it was a long set. You all are now 1 best of 5 away from qualifying at this point up against SK. I know you guys are confident coming down here, but I mean, do you think you would make it in this fashion through the upper bracket up against SK, or are you even a little bit surprised at yourselves at all?
Well, I think coming into this, we definitely expect it to be Obey. And then against LG, it's just like, yeah, you always hope for it, right? And you expect it because you're self-confident. But I guess we were a little less secure of the win than we were yesterday against Obey. And then against SK, we didn't even look so far. We just focused on Obey LG first.
All right, congratulations on making it this far, guys. Get prepped for that set. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you at the winner's desk here again.
Thank you.
What a day for the minor league boys there, Faeles and Deathpanter. Always a little bit of fun with those guys, and they should be feeling good zeros. I mean, I think that the way the Deathpanter words it there at the very end is very accurate. You come in expecting to beat a team that you're playing up against first. Then LG, you go, we think we should be able to do it, but you never know. And I think you have that same level of confidence against SK with a little bit more of the maybe sort of factor. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's just how you have to look at things, right? You have to plan for the game you have ahead. Just imagine this, though. Imagine if SK beats Simplicity now, and we get a rematch of LG Simplicity, but in a best of 5.
Oh,
That's
baby.
going to be a long day.
That would be a long Friday morning, baby. That's what I'm looking forward to. SK Gaming up against Simplicity will be your winners finals tomorrow, though, of course, that will not be your opening game. This is going to be a fun matchup. I think that Simplicity picked so much early game and put so much pressure early game that it's going to match what SK usually does. SK likes to put pressure early game as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's just the thing, you have Paul, he's like a different kind of beast in the mid lane, I feel like, because he plays these pressure gods and he plays them so well. The Ullr, even the Hell, he makes work for like as a pressure pick, you know, so that could definitely shut down what Simplicity want to do.
It's a good point. What was that? Was that last year, I believe, that Insignum played up against, what was that team name that Paul had down with Pain Divion to the minor league? But they came to a spring LAN and Paul, I mean, he knew Deathpanter's social security number, where his mother grew up. I mean, he knew everything about that man after that set. He dismantled him in that matchup, and that's one that should be pretty fun. I'm sure Deathpanter wants to get some revenge over there. Thanks so much for watching. If you stuck here since the very beginning, we really appreciate the loyalty, man, because you've been watching the broadcast for a solid 9 hours now, and we're hoping you're ready for even more Smite tomorrow, 11 a.m. right here, same channels you've been watching on all day. Have a good night, get some rest, and we'll catch you next time here at the Smite Pro League. Peach it.